Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to the ArchCast, where today we have a wonderful little guest, Janovich. How do you pronounce this one, German?
Oof.
Thanks, Arch. That was a great introduction.
I know, that was excellent. I'm genuinely curious, though, because at first
That's
I thought
the
you
proper
mentioned
introduction.
everyone, and welcome back to the ArchCast, where today
Your fuse
we
is down, so
have
Janovich is
then wonderful little.
It is
guest.
Janovich. And I'm not Russian, by the way. I'm actually very Dutch.
What? People say you're
I'm
Russian?
pretty sure I'd had another Serbian to add to my collection. Oh, there, Janovich. It sounded Serbian, but no, sadly.
Well, at some point in my life, I was pretty obsessed with Russian, so I guess that's where the nickname came from.
It's a dangerous nickname to have these days.
Especially when it comes to Games Workshop.
That too. Then again, Games Workshop has done absolutely nothing with Russia's market, shall we say, for alternative figurines. So maybe it's actually better.
Well, the Russians are pretty based in that regard, so can't blame them.
But anywho, no, to be in all due seriousness, Janovich here has made a really cool Vraks animation. We'll have your channel up here in the background, and we'll of course have a link down in the description. I highly recommend you do go check him out. Now, you originally had a plan for a series of animations, did you? But then GW decided to come along.
Well, I started Vraks at the start of 2021, and I'm the kind of person that completely overestimates myself a lot of the time. So when I started working on Vraks, I just started modeling the Citadel. I was like, what's the most important part? And so I started... Oh, there's my cat on the microphone. I just started modeling the entire Citadel, and I think that's where most people caught on to what I was doing. So in the final version of the film, the Citadel is there for literally one shot, the entire film, so
all of
kind of stupid.
Seconds.
Well, it's a long shot, but it's still one shot, so it's a little bit sad, I must admit. But it's still in my hard drive, maybe one day.
Maybe one day there'll be further use for it. Maybe one day fan animations will not be a criminal offense against GW's IP.
Well, it's on par with what do you call it? Recasting and pirating, according to Games Workshop. So that's a very good start for us animators.
Well, see, I would disagree with that for the simple reason that they're not criminally... they're not going after anywhere near as many recasters as they are fan animators.
That's a fair point.
It seems a more severe crime, if anything, frankly. Now,
well, they haven't contacted me yet, but
yeah, that's true. Like they hit a lot, but they didn't hit everyone. And what logic might be behind that decision is, well, God only knows.
It's also basically a scare tactic, right? So they're trying to just discourage people from starting fan animation in the first place.
Well, it was a double-edged kind of approach to begin with, because they were, of course, beginning Warhammer Plus, and they were literally, like, they were sending out offers to people like, work for us or stop working. Like, it's...
Allegedly, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think...
Unless you have resources that I don't have access to. It's very possible.
I know for fact that at least one person was sent an offer to work for Games Workshop, and he sent me the offer itself, and it looks legit. But it was very much so also kind of like a PR covering their arse move, because they were like, okay, well, if we just strike them, we look like terrible human beings. But if we offered them jobs...
Yeah, then we can fool the fanboys to think it's actually a good deal.
Yes, except the job they offered this guy, like he'd made it I don't think he was finished, but he was working on a full scale animation. Like he To throw in a rough estimate, I'd say he was probably something like 60% your level. Like he was definitely not new to animations, but he wasn't like fully smooth either, if you get my drift.
Mhm.
And but he wasn't bad at all, and he was offered to animate stuff like cloth. Like, would you like to do flags for us? And like, okay, that's just a middle finger at that point.
Yeah, if you're a dedicated character animator, that's very specific. So doing cloth is just an entire job entirely.
Yeah. It was very much so like, yeah, we're going to give you this thing, but we're going to couch it in such a way that we know you can't or won't accept it.
Yeah, well, yeah, the offers were legit. I know of one offer that, it was a legit job offer, just was not, I would say, not a serious offer in that regard to his skill level.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. GW. They did shut up about this, though, because I think the backlash was sizable enough that I haven't heard of them doing this to anyone else since the initial wave of claims. So, I mean, on the other hand, they don't really need to. They struck like 80% of the fan animation community, and they struck all of the bigger ones, too.
Yeah, and they got quite some nice animations out of it as well.
Yeah. So I guess they didn't really need to continue this deeply unpopular line of legal reasoning. I doubt they stopped because they realized it's like this is bad for our community. No, they stopped because they're like, bad PR.
Yeah, it was very harmful for the company. I was at one point I was very optimistic about Warhammer Plus, in the sense that I even made a video. I called it
child.
Yes, I'm not as experienced as you are, Arch. But I made a video. It's called. I was trying to be nice, but you're right.
Well, now he. But
yeah, I made a video called "The Golden Age of Warhammer Fan Films," and I talked about how this Warhammer Plus could actually be a very nice opportunity, both for the fans and for Games Workshop. But they have basically screwed it up in every way imaginable, and they continue to screw it up.
See, there's the thing. Initially, my first reaction was like, oh, holy shit, okay, official Warhammer 40k animations.
Right.
Like, that'll be great, right? And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, hold on. Is that actually going to be great? Like, modern day Games Workshop, 21 Primarius Lieutenants Games Workshop. Is it actually going to be great? And even in my first video talking about this, I was very skeptical. Like, hold on, like, what are they going to do with this? Like, they've got the Astartes guy on the team. That's fantastic. But are they going to allow him to do anything? And so far, the answer is no. As far as we know, he's presumably working on some sort of Astartes installment. But that's all we know.
I was fooled by this as well, because as we all know, they advertise with a shitload of shows. We're talking about like some of the shows that are coming up right now, like the Interrogator. But there's supposedly a show about Titans. There's supposedly a show about Necrons as well. And like, I should have seen this coming, but I would say 90% of those shows are not even in production yet. They only have a logo and maybe some sound design and music. And that's what they advertise with.
Well, there's the question, because originally I was thinking, because when they released the first episode of Hammer of Bolter, I looked at it and I was like, okay, I mean, this isn't good, but it's not awful either. So if this is filler, then sure. If there's like an occasional Hammer and Bolter episode, like once a month or twice a month, there's a Hammer and Bolter in between the biggest shows, like, all right. In that case, they would actually supersede my expectations with lots of animations. But instead, Hammer and Bolter has turned into the primary product.
Yeah, I agree. Hammer and Bolter has a place for a low-budget show. That's totally fine. But if it's your main show and people are paying money for that, and like they only get 2 episodes a month at most, and like there was one time, I think near January, that they didn't upload a single animation for over 4 weeks. That's kind of
And remember, they're
disappointing.
scaling down animations production too now.
Really?
Yeah, they announced this a little while ago that they were cutting back on animations whilst looking to make more of their YouTube videos instead.
Oh yeah, the article that they put out, that they were, on one hand promising more stuff, but it was basically a reskin of their existing model.
Yes, I really liked that. It's like, we heard you loud and clear. You want more, so we're going to do less animations
Yes.
and more YouTube videos. Like, okay.
And there's so much exciting stuff coming as well that we can talk about. Yeah,
It will be super great, guys. Trust us.
Yeah, at this point, like if you have a 1-year subscription, I totally understand that you want to get your free model. Like, I'm not judging. Even in a sense, like, and most people have pointed this out, like, the value isn't even that bad. It's just, like, it's still a slap in the face. And if you're being principled about it, then you would not get a subscription. But other than that, the value isn't that bad.
Well, that's the thing. As the value stands right now, I would say that it doesn't compare to all of the other options as you have for streaming services. And that's the main failure of GW's Warhammer Plus. Now, you could argue that as a fan, you would want to see more Warhammer animations, at which point I would simply argue, okay, yeah, but you had access to all of this already for free. These were fan animations. The stuff you're coming for, the Astartes, the Exodite stuff, the big stuff, that's not GW. That's random people in their basements doing animations because they love 40K.
Like me, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas the official GW product is Hammer and Bolter, which again, like, if Hammer and Bolter had been created by a dude in his basement, I'd be like, okay, wow, this is pretty damn awesome. But it isn't. It's created by £100 million a year company.
Oh, you looked it up, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, they had an enormous revenue. Like, they are a huge company now. Like, they had I think nearly 300 employees in their main Nottingham branch.
That's quite a lot for an animation company, certainly.
Well, that's not all animations. That's for the Nottingham branch entirely. So Warhammer World and the factories and so on.
Oh, right. So right now you're talking about the Warhammer TV stuff?
Yes, the size of
right.
Warhammer
Because
in Nottingham.
I think Hammer and Bolter is made by an external studio, I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
Yeah, it's called Farsight Features. They have basically hired a studio, and I talked about this a little bit. And they have some existing products. They made a short, trailer for Just Cause in a very similar style, but the quality was much higher. So essentially, Games Workshop must have been offered that style, but they didn't want to pay the budget, I suppose. So then they scaled down.
That's interesting. Because what I was kind of assuming was that they had created their own proper staff, and this proper staff was, of course, going to be, used to aid the other animators as well, to make sure that they had access to systems people, an actual storyboard room, like a staff.
Yes.
So but if they're using an external studio for that, go on.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is right now with the Exodite, they're supposedly working very closely together with the Warhammer TV team, as was indicated in the article. So, of course, they are supplied with changes to the script, as for better or worse. But also like things like sound designers, perhaps, I don't know. So that I can totally imagine.
Hope, at least.
I'm also really curious where those high-end cinematic stuff comes from, like the one with the Horus Heresy that just released. I have no idea where those are being produced.
Yeah, see, that's kind of the elephant in the room, isn't it? So we were given this stuff, right? We're given Exodite, which was all right. I didn't hate it, but at the same time, I'm like, again, you're £100 million company now. I need more than the YouTube quality for me to think that it was a good idea. But again, it wasn't bad. It was certainly better than Hammer and Bolter, and if they could keep producing expedite level content, I'd have a much better opinion of Warhammer Plus. And then that 30K trailer dropped, and you're looking at that going, okay, where the fuck is this team?
We need more of this, yeah.
Yeah, what are these guys working on? This is your free trailer, but you take...
Yeah.
It's so backward. The free trailer is many, many times better than their paid stuff.
Yeah. But you have to wonder, like, when did they start producing? Because this must have been a project of, I would say, a year run-up. But then again, Warhammer Plus must have been a project of, like, several years run-up.
There's the question. Because a project of that size should have been at least a year just pure planning. At least, probably more.
Right.
And then there's also the just thinking about it, like they got all of the assets made previously, like the battle reports, for example, do have quite a lot of assets. There's quite a lot of editing going on there.
Mm-hmm.
That requires a staff, that requires a team, that requires planning, that requires concept work, etc. All of this shit. And at the same time, you're looking at the schedule and going, okay, GW is currently struggling to produce a YouTube video like a week.
Yeah, so they're way behind schedule on the producing of the videos. That
is, like you said, it must have a lot of planning, and yet it's very difficult to see where this planning is.
Exactly. And then with the new trailer, it makes new rumors that apparently Sayama Peterson must be working on it because it's so good.
Yeah, that's what I've been... See, I've had that suspicion as well. I looked on it and hold on, like they've got a Astartes dude, and here's a really great animation. Like if you put 1 + 1 together, it would stand to reason that he was maybe the guy behind it, because it's really, really good work. And whilst I didn't get quite the Astartes feel out of it, like just I don't know.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, but if that's true, then clearly Astartes 2 is being delayed. Which is...
And that's another thing, too. Okay, like, assuming he worked on this, which makes a certain amount of sense, because he's probably their best animator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're lying to your audience, because you've been telling us he's working on the next Astartes. So is he, or isn't he? Like, are you using him on free stuff when you're getting people to pay for the promise of content you haven't even delivered?
Yeah. We will never know, that's the problem. And... I think that's the whole problem with this whole fan animation thing, is they just don't communicate with their fans. And if they do communicate, it's either very unhelpful or sometimes even straight up lies.
Yeah, see, there's another problem too, because GW has, over the last 5-6 years, actually gotten a fair bit of credit for having become far more communicative. But this is actually something that the Outer Circle pointed out in a video a couple of years ago, and it was really kind of a eureka moment for me, because I was still like, okay, but at least they're talking to us. And he said, I don't know if you know of the Outer Circle, Maka.
Not really, no.
All right, well, he does YouTube videos. He's been quite critical of GW for quite a time. And he basically pointed out, okay, they're talking, but are they talking to you? Like, what communication are you actually having with GW? Are they answering questions? Are they telling you things? Or are they simply just putting out press releases and liking drawings on Twitter and giving likes to paint jobs and stuff? Because that's what they're actually doing. There's no actual communication coming from GW. We're being marketed to, and yet we've been so starved for communication. We're looking at them and going, holy hell, they're speaking.
It's a good point, yeah. I didn't consider that. Did Kips just die, or where is he?
I'm here. My opinion on this matter is pretty abrupt, so I'm just letting you guys get through it, because I've said my piece on this before.
Kipperton is only like 25% into 40k, so
Yes.
he's kindly sitting in the background, being like, "I will let the adults speak."
It's fine to Oh, adults. The children play with their pathetic little toys, yes. My
Kips,
opinion...
what are you into, then?
Not much, like in the tabletop scene. Because initially, with Warhammer, I was like, oh, Warhammer's so cool. I met Arch, early on into his lore series. I was like, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this because this looks so cool. Went to the Games Workshop down in Minneapolis, right? Picked up some boxes and was like, I'm going to build like some Lizardmen. I'm going to build some Skaven. And there's this cool story event happening, which is called the End Times. So that's pretty cool. I'm jumping in right in this big pivotal story change. That's going to be interesting. Turns out the End Times was just them killing off that entire universe. And so I bought all that stuff. And I was very burned afterwards, to the point where I'm like, I've spent like a good few $100s to almost like $1,000 trying to get into this, and got all these nice books and everything. I've always liked Warhammer Fantasy. I've got a lot of the books. Felix and Gotrek is one of my favorites, And I hate GW. I've hated them before they did this, and I just despise them. And I just don't like how they treat people.
That's the second bad investment that you told me in the last half an hour.
I know. There's a repeating that there's a reason why I stopped doing Kickstarters and other things, because I kept getting burned. Planetary Annihilation, I kickstarted that too. Another bad investment.
But yeah, you met Arch through the Vraks lore, is what you said, right?
Warhammer Fantasy. Total War Warhammer was
Warhammer Fantasy. Okay.
What led to our first collab, because I was like, oh hey. There's this dude called Arch that people want me to interview. And I'm like, okay, I'll bring him on. It was a long time. That was 2016 or 15? Fuck. During the Chaos DLC. I remember.
Long and difficult years.
There's lots of drama around the Chaos DLC. It's like, a faction pack at the launch of the game? Absurd! Next game.
Right, yeah. Creative Assembly isn't what it used to be.
It's tragic.
Fortunately.
No, it isn't. None of these companies are. Like, genuinely, like, there is a reason why back in the day companies used to, rotate out relatively frequently. That's why when there's a company today that has these big like signs going like since 18 blah blah blah, you're like, oh my god, you've been around for like 200 years. That's incredible. Because most companies don't exist for very long. They last for a while, they service their community, then they lose touch with their community, and then they go away. It feels like that is kind of the period we're heading into now, where a lot of the titans of the current day industry are falling more and more out of touch with their consumer base. And that's not just like 40k, it's not just Games Workshop, it's Creative Assembly, it's Disney, it's Hollywood, it's so many of these huge entertainment institutions that we look at and go, why can't you produce good stuff again?
Yeah, I see that happening as well. Although I must admit, I'm not that like invested in games and media anymore.
You said invested again.
You keep seeing here.
What do you want me to say?
He's not infesting it. He's like, I'm a parasite.
You're time investing. That's no, but you understand what I mean. Like,
yes, we do.
And when I was I started on Vraks. I basically committed to it full time and didn't have much time. Actually, the one piece of content that I did consume during that time was your Siege of Vraks lore video. Because I tried to get into the Bedap war that you did, but I found it a bit too confusing because I was so invested into Vraks at that point. I couldn't handle two stories at the same time. But yeah, your Siege of Vraks lore video it has basically created the Dev Corps community, I would say. Like, to the extent that it is popular now.
Damn. That's quite a head pat.
I do know that Vraks was popular. The highest praise I've ever received came from my arch enemies in Sig Marxism going, yeah, Vraks was pretty alright. So clearly I did something right there. Even though, like, man, I'm looking at, you're doing a bit of a lore series on Vraks too now, with way more animations, and, oh god, that's always the stuff I have wanted to do, proper animations, but I've never found the time to invest in doing it and learning it, and I've never found people to do it for me either.
He's a big spender looking to find
I'm
something.
beating the grandpa at his own game.
Oh, Grandpa, how young are you? Jesus.
What do you think?
You have a very mature voice. Perhaps
Mm,
late 20s. 28.
40.
4.
29.
No, Kips is pretty accurate.
See, I've spoken to a lot of lowlanders. I understand them a little better. If I had met you years back, I'd be like 40.
No. I've been doing, like... I knew in high school that I really wanted to do 3D animation. So, like, for me, this was just a straight path in a certain way. So I've been doing 3D for, I think, 8 years now. And obviously I learned a lot of other skills as well, like 2D on the way. And, you know, I learned so much about Vraks, and I read the Imperial Armor books. And, you know, I thought there is this one concept missing in 40K, and that's these battle animations that we see in a lot of history from channels like Bass Battles and History March. And I thought this is something I can do. This is like the entire Siege of Vraks already covered by Arch, but I can do it in a different way. That provides like a little bit of extra value, right?
You can one it up.
Visual, less depth, lore, and intelligence.
Of course.
Look at the fighting begins, nerds.
No, but I entirely agree. Like, you could do so much more with visual animations of what's going on, and it would make it much easier to follow. My issue is I'm already way too fucking busy doing everything else. And God, I hate editing. Fuck, I hate editing.
He does. He won't stop complaining about it.
I totally understand. When I finished Vraks, I had a lot of, well, I wouldn't say I had a lot of time on my hands, but, you know, I had a bit of time to try different stuff. So that's when I started making a bit more different YouTube videos. But I've kind of come down from that because it was just such a big time sink. And it wasn't just, like, the videos wasn't what my audience was looking for on my channel primarily. Like, of course, the videos are a bit cringy in a certain way. So I've decided to just basically cut those out and just focus more on the lore and on the animation again. Because the editing is just a really big time investment.
It sinks time like nobody understands. I mean,
yes.
To give you guys watching an idea here, like I've been doing some recent coverage on the Ukraine war because I'm really interested in military tactics, history, etc. So I feel like, okay, this is kind of fun, like mental exercises. The latest video I did on that is let me check. I think it was like half an hour or so, half an hour maybe, something along those lines. Wait a minute. Yeah, probably. 20 minutes, half an hour, right? That took me about 4.5 to 5 hours to edit, which is just cutting together clips, following timestamps, doing some super basic animations, which in my case is picture fade into second picture. That's my animation skill level. You know,
impressive.
All of that, it takes hours, like, because you need to do every step by step by step, and each and every one eats up more and more time, and it takes so long.
Right. Well, I must also say animators are in a bit of a rough spot on YouTube as well when it comes to like the time you need to invest into a video. Like the Siege of Vraks, like I took a whole year. I didn't need to take a whole year when you consider the final product, like 5 minutes, and like cut down in size. But you know, it's the revenue, for example.
First big thing. You know?
Well, that's not entirely true.
Stimulant.
Many people don't know that I've also created the animation Sword Brethren. It's not the same quality, obviously, but it's. I think it was like 15 minutes long. You haven't seen it.
You should have done better.
You have to do your research, Arch.
Poor Arch.
Listen, you're a swamp German.
Ooh. See, I've watched Janovich's videos.
We've arrived at this point.
I found Janovich because I noticed he kept commenting.
Hold on. I've got a hold on. Okay, I've got a better retort here. Okay, Janovich has impugned my honor, so I will respond in the same way the GW does, with legal action. So I have trapped you here now in this call with myself and my copyright lawyer, Kyle
Right.
from Gibbs
No.
Gibbs and Puddington's Cat Litter and Legal Advice,
Yeah.
Save me, Gibbs!
and he will be presenting you with the copyright strike from the usage of my Siege of Vraks video.
That's right, I did actually use that.
Uh-oh.
Well, and that brings us to another part where you commission a lot of artwork, and I think that's very impressive. I haven't seen a lot of channels do that.
It's true.
You bring food on the table for creative people.
He definitely
I do.
does. I know some of his artists. He's
In
got
fact,
a
not
big
that
art.
long ago, my Serbian artist sent me the following message.
Messages. There you go.
Arch, GIF work, hungry. End quote.
More guns.
And well, you did offer me to come work for you when you saw those sweet animations. But I knew you were rich, but I didn't know you were that rich, Arch.
Oh my goodness.
See, the art honestly is like my middle ground, because like you say, what does the lore videos miss? Okay, or in your case, okay, I need visual animations. I can do that. I can make visual animations. In my case, I looked at the lore videos and went, okay, what do these miss? Frankly, art. Because I'm like, I can't do animations. Like, I fucking already hate fucking editing. Okay, I'm not going to do that. And I tried looking for an editor to begin with, and animators, and Jesus Christ, they are elusive little cunts, I'll tell you that. So eventually I was like, okay, but I've got artists. I actually know several artists, because I did a very quick dry run of this years ago with the Wolf for Armageddon, where I was starting to look into custom art. It's like, okay, custom art is something I can get done. And basically that's my way of adding something visual to the scene, and it works well. Like it definitely does up the quality and the availability of assets that aren't covered, because this is something that the Imperial Armor books do awfully. There is dick all art in them. Like there's
Right.
And no art whatsoever about like key characters. Like you've got nothing about Joka, you've got nothing of Kagori, you've got like one picture of the Inquisitor where he just looks like a regular ass Inquisitor in power armor.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of story that can be told there if you just can get some goddamn basic pictures. Like even the Cardinal, the linchpin of this entire story, doesn't have any art.
Art's expensive.
No. But that's what's cool about it, because without your commissions, there would just be no art at all about many of these characters. Like, I used some of those character arts in my lore videos, and I'm very thankful for that. So, thank you. I'm still looking forward to the lawsuit, but...
Don't inflate his ego, Janovich. Trust me, it's not worth it. Just be like, it's okay, Art. You know, just do that. Yeah, it's a dab on the artist, but they don't watch these. They won't know.
Shut up, weeb. I've seen your art.
I don't draw anymore. I pay people for that.
But no, like that was basically my attempt to add something to a thing that I knew was missing. And in the future, I'm hoping to do both. I do have a little Serbian lined up, which might be of use to me in this regard, so hopefully. Because the thing is, too, right? You used to say, like, oh, you're rich, therefore you can do this. No. This is simply just running a normal business. Because this is something that so many YouTubers fuck up on. Like, they don't understand how taxes work. Like, I have to pay a lot of taxes because I'm in goddamn Norway.
Okay.
And all of these things are expenditure to me.
They are,
like,
but you don't understand that you are rich and we aren't. So we kind of have to do it differently than you because we have limited resources. You've got rich boy problems. We got poor people problems.
Arch has the 1% problems.
He does, and he's like, see, it's simple, tax deductibles. And it's like, I did use tax deductible. I would have owed like $10,000 for Battle Damage Studios operations this year. Or last year. But the thing is, that still doesn't mean I have more money. I still have nothing in terms of what I have left.
I
Right.
still need to spend another 10, 20K to get out of my fucking taxes.
See, look at this. Look at this guy. Look at him, Mister. I have like 7 cars. He's like, it's an easy problem. Be quiet. Be quiet. Duct tape over mouth. Easy my ass.
It is, though, because it's expenditure. Like,
Easy for you.
But that was the problem I was alluding to when it comes to animators, because the time sink for an animated piece is just so much that it's almost not worth it. But that's the great thing about the 40K community, that there's just so much crowdfunding, and that is what makes it possible, and that is what brought about the golden age of Warhammer 40K fan films. And
it was. Because you had a lot of people who were willing to pay for that ridiculous time sink, and since it was a fan product, people were very understanding. Like Astartes, how many years did it take to produce like 5 minutes of Astartes?
Right. I don't know, but probably a lot.
God.
Although
It's all been wiped off the goddamn internet now, hasn't it? But like, I'm pretty sure...
Simon Peterson's pretty reserved individual, I'd say, but I had a little bit of a chat with him, and he said he's been doing animation for about 20 years or something, and he comes from a animator family. His dad was working on animations as well, so yeah, he has the experience. He is the outlier in this regard.
That would I would not be surprised at all, because his level of skill there is fucking incredible, just straight up.
Yeah.
But let's see. Like, it must have been at least 3 years since the first one popped up, I think, if not more. So he'd been working on that for 2-3 years maybe, to produce like 5 minutes of animation. That's the scope you're looking at there. And one of the problems there too is you kind of gateway it to only the absolute topmost percentage, because your animation needs to get a lot of traction. It needs to get a lot of views. It needs to get a lot of fans who can then be turned into supporters via Patreon, etc.
Right.
The benefit was that the 40K community was really, really hungry for this kind of content, and they were super willing to embrace it on every level. So it was relatively easier to get a good, breakthrough and actually get that funding going. Otherwise, there would be no chance. Like, hell, even animated history videos that you mentioned, for example, the whole Baz Battle stuff, even that, like, I'm trying to think, like, how many... You'd have to have several 100,000 views per video to make that pay for itself in terms of time investment.
Yeah, I'm also very aware. Like, I'm not some super talented animator. I'm not some genius. My success from as an animator on YouTube is mostly due to like bandwagoning on an existing franchise. That's in this case Warhammer, and that's all right. It's fine if you're an animator or an artist in general that you make things that people want to see, instead of just going your own way and making some obscure new science fiction that nobody's waiting for.
Yep. And that's actually a good move on your part, because a lot of artists will try to start their own IP, because I know a lot of them that tried to, but they get no traction because their name hasn't gotten out there. By utilizing and doing fan arts for other IPs, what you're doing is you're touching markets and other pools, and people are like, wow, Janovich, your stuff's pretty cool. You know what? I'm going to check out your other stuff as well. And then you just slowly drip feed more people into your core audience.
Right, which can be an absolute win-win situation for the company that you're using the IP as well from.
It's mutually beneficial.
Any normal company uses it.
Any normal company, yeah.
And there's the thing too. In your formative years, when you're beginning to figure out what you're going to do, and you're beginning your job, and for animations, which is a very high skill job as well, like, it's going to take you years and years to get to a decent level unless you are super talented. Like in your case, I think you're already really good, and you're also, as you mentioned, quite young. So like you will get a lot better as you just learn the workflow, learn the tricks, learn the ideas. Like you said with the Vraks, for example, all of the lessons you learned there, like you'll learn more lessons everything you do.
Yes.
And you should begin adding to other franchises because it already has an established fan base. Nobody loses when you make a 40k fan animation or a Battletech fan animation, or etc. There are no losers in that equation. The company gets PR, they get cool stuff, and the person who uses it gets to be like, hey, I have this cool thing based on another cool thing, and there's people already like this cool thing. Where instead of beginning from scratch on YouTube, where you're like, okay, like I have seen such good videos with like half a dozen views simply because that's how YouTube works.
Yes. Actually, my very first animation was also basically 1 in a million, where I was like, obviously with Krieg, I'm very interested in World War One, so that's also where I started. So my graduation project is called Machina Mortem. It's a very short animation about World War One, and that was several years ago, but that was basically around the anniversary of, I mean, the century, and what do you call it? Like World War One was a century ago, right? So it started picking up traction, and that video, although it's not on my channel, it has reached about 5 million views, I think. So, like, I realized like what this kind of traction can do, and also that it's basically a thing of luck, because I've made things that I thought were way like cool, but then people just completely ignored it. And you never know if what you make is gonna get picked up. You just don't know.
Yep. There is no way to know because the YouTube algorithm works in mysterious goddamn ways.
Yeah, but not just YouTube, like it's on Reddit as well. You make a post, you think this is hot shit, and then nobody gives a fuck.
Yep, and that sucks. And the thing is, a lot of people might like it, but you might have just posted A in the wrong time and got buried by other posts. B,
yes,
the cover art, because people judge a book by its cover. Never believe that crap about them not. Good cover art will get you clicks. So you got to make sure it's nice, snappy, catchy, and it's got to be at the right time, the right moment.
Yeah, and that's why we are now live at 11 p.m. at our time to get in the right moment for the stream.
And so people can hear about you, so you can grow.
Yeah, exactly. Little sacrifice of sleepy time.
Hopefully it's
Sleep
worth
is
it.
for the weak and the gentle and the female. But again, like there's no losers in creating fan animations for existing project. Like everyone benefits. It is a universal good that GW decided to destroy because they wanted in on this. They were looking at the views of Astartes. They were looking at all of the success. They were looking at the monies being thrown fan animators' way and went, hold on, can't we have all of this? No.
Although, to be fair, like after Astartes, I had a bit of a, well, I wouldn't say a problem, but I could see a trend where people would start companies around like making fan animations, and that's, I would say, a bit problematic compared to just a fan like starting. Although
you can't make a company out of it because now you're producing an official product.
But like, that's how, for example, the Exodites set themselves up to be bought out by Games Workshop, because they had essentially started a company around it, and that's legally very different.
Yes, no, that is very different because you shouldn't be doing that. If you're a fan, sure, that's fine. In fact, that's even better because, of course, a fan will actually make something that is faithful to the universe instead of, for example, the currently ongoing Halo show.
Don't trigger Kips, okay?
Yeah.
He's been through a lot.
I have, thank you. At least somebody understands. Arch is like, oh, Warhammer's dying. It's like, I've had everything taken from me, Arch. Dying. And that happened to me years before you.
And it's also a bit like you have to prove yourself as well, in my opinion. When I made Swordbread, and like I started it like 5 years ago, I think. And then I didn't make anything for a year. And then I did episode 2. And then, like, I was... I had time at some point, and I was like, this Astartes guy just really inspired me, and I'm just going to finish this. And I didn't start any crowdfunding because I had not made anything to prove myself at that point. I was like, let's just first finish this, make this free, available online, and then we'll see where it goes. And then I finished it, and people were this is cool, we see potential, and that's when I started the crowdfunding for Vraks. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's sort of, if you need to have a certain level of imposter syndrome, I think, to be genuine.
Well, you need to have a product to sell a product. And that's just simply the truth of the matter. Like, if you're going to have animations and you want people to support you making animations, you have to be able to go like, hey, this is my animations.
Having a catalog, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with the 40K stuff. We had a lot of trailers, like channels that had literally one trailer and nothing else, and they were like raking in crowdfunding.
Because a lot of people were desperate. A lot of people were genuinely desperate, because there was stuff like the was it Inquisitor, which ended up producing like one trailer-esque episode and then nothing else.
Oh, you mean the Lord Inquisitor? Well, that's a bit different because that's basically a whole production. I'm talking like the post Astartes generation, because Lord Inquisitor was before that.
Like, the Lord Inquisitor was intended to be a lot more than what it ended up being.
Of course, yeah.
I think I get what... So, Janovich, you're talking about, like, the guys that came up because they smelled money in the water, and then they tried to
there were a lot of
cash in.
channels, like, that just uploaded one really short trailer with, of course, like, visual, impressive stuff, but it was, like, nobody knew these guys.
Yep, but they just wanted to cash in quick. That's not too... That happens to other stuff as well. Like, Star Wars fandom gets it, Halo fandom gets that. Where they just come in to cash in, they get the money, and then they dip out.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the downside of the crowdfunding generation, isn't it? It's very difficult to know who is genuine and what will become genuine. I've fallen for this on several occasions myself. Iron Harvest, which is something you're working on now, this is a good opportunity to move on to that topic as well.
Sure, yeah.
Because you made an animation recently as a little proof of concept kind of thing for something set in the Iron Harvest setting.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Harvest was a game that I was really excited about from the moment it was announced, because they were like, we're big fans of Relic. We want to make a Relic-style strategy game. Want to bring Company of Heroes, but we're going to do it with mechs and cool-ass weapons and blimps and shit. Like, holy hell, yes, because Relic ain't making Relic strategy game no more. So, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I bought like the $600 version. I still haven't gotten my miniature, which they promised in that, or any of the pre-order stuff beyond
Me too.
That's rough. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, but
because
that's
I was super
bad.
excited.
Like, I don't want to burn these guys because essentially they're being very nice to me and giving me shout-outs. But that's bad.
Like they've been really nice to me too. Like, I've talked to them, I've given them my feedback. I have no problems with the developers. I'm sure they're great people, and I'm sure they didn't. Like, I'm not saying they were trying to screw anyone over by any stretch of the imagination. I simply think that they went into a project, and they had very great hopes and very high ideas, and they weren't quite able to fulfill these ideas, because Iron Harvest, not a great game. There are some good ideas there. I quite liked the infantry combat. I like the idea of the mechs, but they simply don't work in a fast-paced multiplayer game. And the campaign is just riddled with pacing and writing problems, to the point where you're like, this is somebody's first project, and there are a lot of very evident errors here.
Yep. I mean, something you can see with the game is there's clearly heart and soul put into it. It has that feeling of like when you play a game when you're like, there's a lot of ideas here, but they just didn't quite reach the maturity they needed, or they just didn't quite, to have the experience to pull it off. I have zero doubt that King Art Games, I believe that's the developer's name, has the ability to achieve those things, but I think unfortunately Iron Harvest didn't quite make the mark because it didn't really blow up in circles. Now I could be completely wrong because when I played it, the multiplayer I remember was kind of on the it wasn't performing very well.
Well, we just need an Iron Harvest 2.
Basically, yeah.
That is actually genuinely what we've been saying too, because I really hope it has done well enough to justify a sequel, because a lot of those inherent problems are things that absolutely can be fixed. And if it can be fixed, it would be a really, really damn solid game. So I do hope it has done well enough for a sequel.
Yeah, and it's a franchise that deserves a good game, because the franchise is fucking awesome.
I do hope they get going with that, especially also as RDS has had a little bit of a resurgence recently. It's still very stumbling. RTS is still a if not dead, then damn near dying genre when it comes to large-scale interest and publications. But it is beginning to crawl its way out of the gutter again, little by little by little.
That's true.
And the recent game Dune Spice Wars, I don't know if you play that, Janovich.
No, but I saw your recent... Well, I clicked on your recent video. I didn't have time to watch it yet. But...
Oh, as long as you gave me a click, that's all I care.
It's really good, though.
But something Dune made me realize, and the devs are a little bit on that side, on gender and race swaps, because it's the current fucking year. But
it was probably because of the movie, but the post was a bit annoying, yeah.
Yes, but what Dune Spice War did, which is what I realized as I was making my my video on it, was that I was sitting there and I'm just talking like, oh, this is a mechanic, and this is a mechanic, and this is a mechanic, and I was just, holy shit, it's a real-time strategy game with mechanics.
Yeah, lots of
there are things to be done.
That's breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
you can compare this to recent Paradox games. Like, you can look at Imperator Rome, the archetypical example of how not to do RTS mechanics. And you can look at Dune, and you realize that these people actually get it. Now, there's mana in Dune. There's tons of mana in Dune, but the mana is understandable, and it does things that you would expect it to do. Spice is de facto a mana. It's a ticking bar that you have to provide so and so much of so as to avoid consequences. But that makes sense within the Dune universe. You would be required to offer up spice regularly. And you can also sell it like it's a dual-purpose mana. And that's all that mana needs to be a fun game mechanic. A rationale for why it exists. The same in Europa Universalis, like when you have diplomacy points. It too is simply just mana, but it's diplomacy points, and it's used for diplomacy. That makes sense, and it allows you to build your own narrative for what's going on. You're not just spending mana, you're sending a diplomat on a diplomatic mission. And the same in Dune. You're not spending intelligence as it is magic, and you have an effect. You're sending agents to do a specific thing.
Using the intelligence and resources you've gathered to purchase the ability, yeah.
If I understand Arch right, we need mech mana.
Unironically, I actually think that a game like Iron Harvest would be better suited if the mechs were far more special and tied to a far more unique mechanic. So the mechs should be really powerful, but they should also be slow and stumbling and sluggardly. And the rest should be like steampunky World War I wheeled and tracked stuff, because the mechs were the Achilles heel of Iron Harvest.
Diesel punk, actually.
But they were also the selling point, so that's problematic.
Yes. You need them to be the mainstay. If they're not the mainstay, people aren't going to buy it. And the mechs were actually extremely slow. Some of those damn things, like the big fat Soviet one, the one that just wobbles or boom. Like that thing moves like molasses.
That's where you have the problem, right? because the mechs are the selling point, as you say, sure. But the mechs are also what makes the multiplayer not fun in the slightest, because you can't really do much with most of them. You can move them forward, but they're so slow, retreating them's not really an option, so you better hope you win that engagement.
Well, it
And it
depends
also
on
leads
which
to
one.
enormous balance issues, like the Polania Chicken Walker being the be-all and end-all for at least the first couple of months, because it was the only mech that was capable of actually retreating.
Oh, right, yeah.
Don't forget about the Saxony four-legged little tank thing. That thing was actually pretty good at retreating.
Yeah, but the Smayali,
Yeah.
the one you're talking about, that's also just the best design of the whole game, in my opinion. It's
That's the issue. Like,
the big pop
I
can.
think they would need to differentiate them more. I think they should do some wheeled vehicles just to have something faster. And the speed of the lighter mechs should be greatly increased. So at least every nation has one or two fast mechs, and then you can have the bigger, heavier mechs too. But
all right.
again, the key issue is how immobile they make the gameplay, and immobility is the death of RTS.
That's a good point. You should get in touch with those guys and, well, suggest them to make part 2 with these suggestions.
No, why don't you, Arch? Chop chop.
I already am.
Are you doing it right now?
No.
That's what I thought. No
I'm waiting to
excuses.
see if they're going to do it part 2, and then I'm just going to go to their studio and go, okay, you have
The
problems.
thing
Here's how
is, you
solve them."
probably want to tell this sooner, because as far as my understanding from my own game development, the sooner you find out there's an issue with a mechanic or a system, the better. Because
I mean,
otherwise things are stacked on top
if they haven't
of it.
realized the problem by now.
Again, you'd be surprised. Sometimes developers, you get sort of like tunnel vision with some of them, where they don't really quite see what's actually, wrong until it's too late.
I've heard some interesting stuff because I have an intern right now who's helping me with this Iron Harvest cinematic. And, well, I'm just going to spit it out. He has, of course, classmates. And one of those is working as an internship at King Art Games. And, I hear some rumors. And one of those is that their team is essentially, very talented, but mostly technical people. So the mech designs were not like made from a design point; they were made from a technical point. Like these were, your riggers, your modelers who just started designing mechs, and the really good mechs in Iron Harvest are the designs from Jakob Rosolski mostly, and the mechs they put in the game to add some extra meat to the game. Those are a little bit less in that sense. So that's probably the reason why, the problems you address are happening.
Because they like his art, and they want to put his art in there, which is awesome. His art is spectacular, by the way, if you haven't seen it. I'm terrible at name pronunciation, so I'm not even going to try. But the problem is, and this is something I've learned in my own journey, you can have lore, and lore is great, but you must always remember the key fact that you are making a video game before anything else. Everything else is secondary or tertiary to the fact that it must be fun. If it's not fun, then it doesn't matter how cool your lore is, it doesn't matter how cool the music is, how good the art is. None of that matters, because people are going to look at the game and be like, this is shit, and they're not going to care about the rest.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where the gameplay comes in. Because I can absolutely envision that they're a very technical bunch, because the movements of the mechs are exceptionally good. Like, they look like they are supposed to move that way.
I wish they would make a BattleTech game. Like, I kid you not. Their animations are spectacular for that game.
That's actually one of the problems with my intern as well. He's getting in so much detail that his mech is so complex, and now I have to rig it. And it's gonna be hell. But
oh no!
Like when I made that Earl Koenig design that I rigged, the part in the leg is just basically hidden behind armor plates. It doesn't connect to anything. It's just pistons like intersecting with all the other mesh. I didn't give a shit, and that's very easy to make, and you get away with it because you don't see it. And then we get the Frankish mech that he designed, and it's all super fine detail. Everything is perfectly connected. It functions all like it's supposed to. Yeah, that's it looks fantastic. It looks really good. I'm really happy with his design. But it takes a bit longer the way he does it.
Takes a lot longer the way he does it.
Hmm.
Now, that is like one of the first things you kind of got to learn in 3D as a design is when and how to cheat as well.
Yes, and you can cheat a lot in animation because you can choose the camera angles. And that's totally different from game design, because in game design you have to make it look good from every angle.
Yep.
Absolutely. It is not simple. But I do hope Iron Harvest gets a sequel. And if they do announce one, I will yell at them as strongly as I can, because I think there is potential there.
It couldn't hurt to shoot them an email. Back when in my earlier days when I wanted to get into game development, I used to email companies and studios all the time. You'd be surprised if you get the right person, you can actually talk to like the designers and stuff like that. Sometimes.
Yeah, it's good if they know that there's enough interest in a sequel.
I mean, I was willing to give them that much money. If the game was good, like I'd play the shit out of it, and I'd also promote the shit out of it.
Well, you should get your sequel for free. But
that'd be nice. But I also still want to support developers regardless. So
yeah, sure.
I'm a big believer in I'll still buy a product. So if I like the developers, I'll buy the cosmetics. Be like, I like this game. I'm not super interested in the cosmetics, but I'll buy all of them just so they get more support.
Now, moving on from Iron Harvest, I did have another topic I wanted to talk about today.
Is it the
specifically
Sargoni?
on 40K.
It's
Yes,
the
because
Sargoni.
Sargaruni made an old school Sargaruni thing. The stuff he used to do.
Yeah.
Back
Yeah,
in
I
the
listened
day.
to it. Yeah, you sent it to me. I listened to it.
Yep. An hour and 50 minutes of classical Sargaruni.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If you're a fan of Sargon's work, you should absolutely check out what he did on the Lotus Eaters recently. I'll have put a link in the description below, because it is some very classic Sargon where he goes into the politics of 40K and why it is currently under attack by people with very different ideas of how 40K should function.
But also, if you're not a fan of him, you should still listen to it, because I think it's very interesting, even if you don't agree with him. It's solid reasoning in that sense.
We're no longer in the period where we listen to people we disagree with.
Look at his doomerisms coming out. He's sad.
But look, I don't agree with everything you say, but I can still listen to you, can have a conversation with you.
See? Look at that.
It's fine.
Yeah, but that's just because you're misinformed or misunderstand something in that case.
Look at him.
Well, I'm plenty informed about you, Arch. So
I think we all are now.
Mm-hmm. Very notorious individual.
Yeah, blacklisted, some might say.
Well, some might say, literally.
It's funny.
No,
you
but
can
I
say
think
what you want about Arch, but everyone has heard of Arch.
Yes. For better or worse.
What were you gonna say, Janovich, before that?
I don't even know.
God damn it! I was like, where's he going with this? Well, it was worth a shot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the way Sargon approaches these topics, I think it's very intellectual stimulating. Like, let's just give the devil his due. Like the sick Marxism guys, like Marxism in itself is just very interesting from a philosophical standpoint. I have read Communist Manifesto. I can get into it. I don't agree with like the logical end conclusions of the stuff, but I can read it. I can understand it. I can understand the reasoning.
The reasoning of Gibbs. I have lost a great deal of respect for you right now.
He said Gibbs, by the way, chat. I'm just clarifying.
The Communist Manifesto. I view it as a product uniquely of our time, as a product unique to a person who has had everything given to him throughout his entire life. I do not think Marxism or communism could have emerged in any other period of history. It is a unique example of our current day society, in my opinion.
Well, the dialectic that comes from Hegel, I think, that idea works Marx sort of took that idea and he applied it to all class struggle in history. And in a sense, it makes perfect sense to see it through that lens, but it's not the only lens. So the problem is, if that's your only lens, then you're going to see everything in that Marxist way. And that's, extremist, and that doesn't work in real life. And that's basically the problem with all extremist ideologies. It's not nuanced.
That was the thing too. Like, when it comes to Hegel, his views was idealistic, and he recognized himself that his ideas were idealistic. Whereas in the example of modern day communism, modern day socialism, they don't even recognize that what they're chasing is utopia. They simply look at this and go like, oh, this is how things should be, and it'll totally work. Except, again, we see it doesn't work. Well, that's the problem with idealism.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It is intended to be something you stretch for. It's a goal. Even though you understand that the goal cannot be achieved, that in and of itself is not a good reason to not pursue the goal. The problem is when you reject everything else in favor of that goal and you make it your greater good, in which anything and everything can be justified.
Yes. At the cost of everything, yeah. That's the problem.
And again, that is what I mean when I say that, like, Marx's view of this could only come from somebody thoroughly privileged, somebody who had the ability to reject reality again and again and again, and still have the Reich Adlers, the monies falling down on his head. But Marx aside,
good old Marx, yeah.
The modern day social justice movement is Marxist in many ways, and it's also deviated wildly from Marx. I imagine Marx would look at the lot of modern day social justice warriors and actually cringe.
Most likely, I agree.
Their tactics have, of course, evolved, and that's what we're seeing now, beginning to start in 40K, just like we've seen it in so many other forms of entertainment. And the explanation for why this is happening is what Sargon's kind of been trying to delve into this audio recording and this essay he's made, where he's trying to explain, first and foremost, why this is happening, why they think it's a good thing, and why this is something that should be rejected. Like, I think he could have, maybe that can be a part 2 for him, but a further examination of the good of rejecting it and how to reject it will be valuable as well in the future. That's one of the difficult questions.
Well, what's the question?
Well, how do you reject this? Like, how do you make the argument available to everyone that you shouldn't engage in this?
Well, the first obvious one is freedom of speech, because if you want, you have to, for freedom of speech, you sort of have to believe in it, in the individual, because you have to believe that people can make their own choices, that you are not just some mouthpiece for an ideology. And, requires a bit of faith in people. And I'd say I have that faith. I think pretty highly of most people. So that's the start. You have to be, in a sense, a freedom of speech absolutist. Although, of course, that is under attack, and I can see the problem, like the irony of that, for sure.
Yeah. The issue there is we immediately butt up against the and Sargon touched upon this as well, the idea that the personal is political, the idea of every piece of media being an argument and everything has to be inherently politicized in this way.
Yeah, everything is propaganda in a sense.
Yes, because in that case, there is no freedom of speech. Like, from the leftist perception, freedom of speech as simply an exchange of ideas doesn't exist. Like, there can be no good faith freedom of speech because the way they view it, everything is an argument, everything is an argumentation, everything is an offensive.
Hmm.
And so to them, the idea of free speech is simply giving the right wing, the evil right wingers, access to the same weaponry that they are currently wielding, and they cannot understand that somebody else might use these weapons differently. There was a really funny little Twitter post I saw the other day, earlier today, I think, actually, that I retweeted, where there's one of those left-wing meme Twitters, and they'd made this little thing with a Republican politician and the self-insert journalist going like, "Do you agree that books that talk about child sexuality and violence against infants should be banned?" Yada yada yada. And the Republican's like, of course, this should be banned immediately." And then the self-insert pulls up the Bible and goes like, "Aha! So you want to ban this book, do you?"
Oh God, this one.
Yes, and the Republican is like sweating, like, "Oh my God, not the Bible." And this is such a tremendous self-own because the Bible is, of course, already banned in schools.
Yeah, it was banned quite a while ago.
Because that's the thing.
Separation of church
From the
and
leftist
state.
perspective, where everything is an argument, they cannot envision a world in which somebody else might argue for the neutral position.
Well, you have to be, in a sense, ready to argue for that neutral position. That's your responsibility. If you want people to, have some balance in political sense, you have to be the first one to do that. Otherwise, it's just everyone. It's the tragedy of the commons kind of idea. Maybe that's not the right analogy, but you see what I mean. Everybody's exploiting the same system.
Well, there's the issue too. Like, because we were at that point where, like in 40K, that's an excellent example of it, for example. When the push first began, it was like with everything else with the earliest third wave of feminism, where they were simply saying like, oh, hey, we want this because we think diversity, representation, etc. These are very important things. And they were accusing everyone of being sexist, yada, yada. And the initial response to all of this was simply just confusion and head shaking and like, oh, our hobby isn't sexist. Like, what are you on about? We tried to appeal to the center, and we tried to even go like, okay, I'm going to explain to you why my hobby isn't sexist in good faith so that you'll understand. Because we didn't recognize that to them this was a argumentation. This wasn't a discussion. This was an argument.
But it's not so much to convince them, right? It's just to be there as a neutral position. You don't have to convince these people of anything. It's not like...
If all you offer up is the neutral position saying, I see your point, but here's my counterpoint, you will inevitably begin to lose to the position that says, no, I reject everything you say, and I stand on my side. Because you've got the entire argument going in just one direction.
Yeah, but you don't have to follow them to the same logical conclusion of their argumentation. Like, you can agree on facts and like logic in a sense, but you don't have to, like, a lot of things are relative. So even like I can see some utility in feminist arguments, but it doesn't mean that I agree with the movement, right?
Yeah, and there's the thing again, right? The neutral position on this is simply that, okay, well, everything's allowed. We have free speech, and that's what we had. We had the neutral position. The problem was, this is, we return now to Karl Popper's idea of tolerance, where if one group refuses to extend the ideals of tolerance to another group, that group must not be tolerated. Otherwise, it will take tolerance away from its opposition.
Yeah,
and that's
the
where we
paradox
are
of
now.
tolerance idea.
Yes, precisely. Because that's where we are at right now, where one side is given every advantage, one side is given every benefit of the doubt and the most charitable view possible, and the other is demonized.
Yeah, I see that happening. Yeah.
And so the question, of course, is how do we begin to counteract this? Now, with more freedom of speech is obvious the first obvious solution, whilst we still have that remit. Like, you can... And it would be effective as well just by looking at the outrage of Elon Musk buying Twitter. Like suddenly the US president and the EU commissioner is like, oh my God, freedom of speech is very important to us. That's why we have rules. Like, come on.
Yeah. But like your argument all comes down to power. You see these groups, you talk in groups, like this group does not allow the other group to exist. Like you could argue this, but I don't see myself as being part of a particular group. I don't feel like threatened as a group.
Well, that's the inevitable collectivist framework that you have to adopt in certain circumstances.
Mhm.
The thing is, the strident individual will stand and die on his own, to put it in the extreme terms, metaphorically speaking. In the case of our modern day civilization, we are not individual civilizations. We are like whole groups. We are nations, and we affect those nations as collectives via voting. And that's just simply how the game is played. Like the person who gets the most votes gets into office and gets to put into place their ideas. And if one ideology is completely dominant, and that ideology argues for widespread censorship of the opposition ideology, there is, in my opinion, a choice to be had there. Like either you can simply choose to disengage entirely, come what may, in which case you're probably going to get some form of pretty hefty tyranny, as we're already seeing, or you can begin to fight on their terms. And go like, okay, right, well, you've set out the rules. We didn't want these rules. We didn't choose these rules, but we are now being forced to partake in these rules. That's pretty much my view.
Yeah, and I can totally see the merit in that way of thinking. I can see why it works in like the way you propose. It's just that, like for example, I don't even vote. So when you say people go voting and they get the party of their choice who's gonna represent them, I don't feel represented by any party. And if like a party gets elected that I think is, in a sense, deplorable. It's not like maybe I'm privileged, but it's not going to have a significant effect on my life. So for me, these power plays, like I understand why people think this way. It's just it doesn't really apply to me personally. As an animator, I basically sit in my basement all day. Like I could retreat from basically everything if it doesn't suit me. And, there's a certain level of sacrifice, personal sacrifice that comes with that. And I'm okay with that.
Yep. And if you're all right with that, then that's your decision.
Again, at the end of the day,
but I guess it's more of a stoic proposition, right? Like people can take away your freedom, people can take away, like, can chain you, but you have your own, dignity, personality. You have a certain world of your own inside of your head that nobody can touch. That's sacred. And, if you can adopt that viewpoint and then kind of drop all the collectivist viewpoints.
Sure. But at that point, you are also choosing to simply disengage from the wider system. Like you become a slave to that system, in my opinion. Like as an animator, you say it doesn't affect you until the rules become set in motion about what you can and cannot animate.
Look who's
like,
here.
Okay, well, you can't animate this thing because it goes against our morality.
There's the Akkad comment.
It's coming
until the thing you've animated.
I was just making the argument that Sargon was saying there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Until the thing animated gets you deplatformed.
Yeah, but you're, like, as an individual, you're very flexible, right? Like, I don't have to be an animator. If this gets taken away from me, I can do other things.
Yep.
I'm not one-dimensional.
I think what
Janovich...
Hold on. But the thing is, I think what Janovich is saying is that he's accepted that, and that he's okay with that. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's a certain, I could fight in a group. I could fight for power, in a sense, like voting tries to, enforce in a way, especially when there's two-party voting. But you can also sort of say, I'm okay with the repercussions of not joining any group. And if enough people adopt that way of thinking, then you have a solution to the problem. And of course, that's very idealistic, of course. I can see the problems of that, but
Yep. And that was your decision to make.
exactly. So
I
I've
see
a
that.
very sympathetic,
I could judge
sympathetic
you.
to your
Judge you
viewpoints.
harshly.
It's just,
He's
Sorry?
allowed to have his own opinions. If he wants to do that, he can do that.
No, but I can
Oh.
see both sides, like left and right. I can see the merits, and I can pick which merits or which arguments I like and apply that to my own life.
Hmm.
And so you don't have to pick a group in a sense. You can just pick the arguments.
Yeah. Like again, you are free to do this. This is your privilege in a modern day society. But I would also argue then that this is a privilege awarded to you specifically by a very specific society. And,
Absolutely, yeah.
Not fighting for that society, well, as long as you've accepted the consequence of not doing so, then I'm not going to try and
It
argue.
doesn't necessarily mean not fighting, right? Because, like I said, it's sort of a stoic way of viewing the world. When there's a very interesting example of stoicism. There's Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors of the Roman Empire, and he adopted stoicism. It's pretty easy for him. He is in a privileged position. But there's also Epictetus. He was basically a slave, and he adopted stoicism. So there's kind of this interesting dichotomy, like how can he adopt stoicism when he's not in a privileged position? And that's where it gets very philosophical, and I don't think we can fully cover this in this podcast, but it's worth exploring.
I mean, you never know. We could extend it.
The
I
ideas
totally
of
understand what you are fighting for, so that's not the problem.
I don't know.
You guys just have different beliefs. I get it. Arch doesn't. Damn. No, I'm kidding.
Like,
As
I
the
can see
chat
myself
says-
being
That was a
broken on the
low
wheel and
blow.
totally regretting all of this. Like, I'm not blind
The
to.
man stands, the kib submits.
We don't have to always agree. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. Arch, isn't it? Arch. He's a
No?
bit of an autist. You gotta give Arch a little bit of time.
'Cause philosophy is an interesting idea in and of itself too, because in that case, it is the adoption of virtues that you have chosen for yourself.
That's true. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
like saying you have to adopt stoicism. It's superior. At the end of the day, we all die in our beds, pretty lonely. So, like,
Not
whatever
my
side you're, whatever side you're fighting for, like, even late at night, I don't think about politics. When you're laying alone at night in the, in your bed, that's not the thing that goes through your head. At least not for me. Someday, I get really, fired up about it, but I try not to.
Well, that too, like
It's an interesting viewpoint to have, though, because I've never talked
we
to somebody with
shouldn't
that kind of
identify
viewpoint.
ourselves at our weakest. Like when we lie in bed at the end of our lives alone, like that is our weakest. Why should that dictate the rest of our lives?
Good
Philosophical.
question. Yeah.
Damn, look at that. Pretty deep. Holy shit.
But I sort of try to go at is why, every day you could die basically. So, well,
Yeah, but every day you could live too.
That's
That's
also
true. And hopefully you do.
But aren't you living now, Janovich? You're doing the thing you like.
Well, doing Vraks was actually one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. I will not, talk around it because I used to work at a media company and it was a pretty fine job. But when I did Vraks full time, that was really rewarding.
Mm-hmm. You got that sense of fulfillment.
Absolutely, yeah.
I understand completely.
So I would say that's what I'm chasing mostly right now. Obviously, YouTube does not pay the most. I would make way more from a normal job, but that's not what I want.
You're pursuing happiness.
Well, also
there
some
you
stability.
just-
I'm not like going all out spending all my savings or anything, but it's not at the pure expense of stability, I would say. It's not hedonistic.
Yep. I mean,
You've got to
that's just
build that
YouTube.
backlog to begin living off YouTube. You need a
Mhm.
quantity of videos that a quantity of people can watch again and again over time. That is where you actually start getting that actual decent ad income when you have because this is the thing, like if you get one blow up video, right, gets 1 million views in a month, like great stuff. All right, then next month and you're like, okay, well, shit, now what? Like, it's better to have 1 million views every month spread over 50 videos than over one video if you're looking for stability and long-term prospects on YouTube.
Mhm.
Particularly also taking into consideration YouTube's ever more algorithmically based system as well, where it is very difficult to predict what tomorrow might bring in terms of popularity, in terms of vice and virtue, benefit and demerit, etc. One day YouTube loves a thing, the other day YouTube hates that thing.
Yeah, I would say most of the time YouTube is pretty fair in the way that it's, obviously YouTube is not going to recommend the entire homepage with your videos. It has to spread out between different creators. So, you get a percentage of impressions, and that seems to work pretty well. And it's also merit-based to a large extent. So I would say I'm pretty happy the way it is now. Obviously, there are some exceptional, how would you say it? People get picked by YouTube, of course, like for preferential treatment. And but that's for most content creators, that's not a problem.
I don't know if I agree, because when you look at the amount of content creators that are actually around, contra the percentage that actually achieve a level of success,
Mhm.
contra how many people use YouTube each and every month, it very much seems to me like a system where the rich get decidedly richer and the poor get progressively poorer.
That's not always the case with some channels,
No.
but there is a disparity between successful channels and those that aren't successful.
Yeah, of course. There's a large group of YouTubers that never takes off, of course. But that the wealth thing is interesting because people sort of automatically assume that if some people get extremely rich, that it has to come at the cost of or other people getting poorer, which is not necessarily true. Because when right now, for example, Elon Musk, the richest person in the world, him getting richer did not make like people of Earth generally getting poorer. The bottom of the poverty is still rising. Maybe it sucks for the middle class somewhere, but we just had a very wealthy baby boom generation with exceptional luck getting retired very early, and that's not the norm throughout history. So I would say we're balancing things out a bit. We're probably going to work until we die, but that's been life for as long as humanity has existed, with the small exception of baby boomers.
Well, the difference is one's the economy, which is a much larger machine, which really doesn't have a whole lot of direct oversight. It's very organic, simply because every effort to try and shackle the economy has turned into a tremendous failure, as they realize that they failed to take into consideration one minuscule, ridiculous absurdity, which brings the entire system railing down around their ears. Whereas YouTube is the exact opposite. It is not an organic economy. In fact, it is highly regulated. The amount of algorithmic shit going on in the background is astounding. Back in the day, before I was assigned bad boy position by YouTube, I had a YouTube representative, which I talked to quite frequently. And they explained to me, because I was like, okay, how does the algorithm work? Can you explain it to me? And they straight up said, no. I was like, okay, why? Because we don't understand it anymore. We have added so many layers to this algorithm now that we're half afraid to touch it anymore.
I can totally believe that. Yeah.
And you then
It
also
happens
see
on
the
a
occasional
tiny level as well. Like when I worked at a media company, I had a TD supervisor, like a technical director supervisor, and we had I would say, not a horrible workflow pipeline, but it wasn't perfect. And he was supposed to be responsible for it, but he was like, no, take your hands off. We're not going to touch it. It's only going to get worse. So for something as big as the YouTube algorithm, that has to sort of be the same.
Absolutely. And there's also the fact that we know there's a lot of direct intervention from YouTube itself in many cases. And now for a lot of YouTubers, this will never be a concern. Like 98% of YouTubers, so like quote unquote YouTubers who begin a channel and upload some sort of content will never pass, I think it was 1,000 subscribers. Like, or maybe it was 10,000. It was a ridiculously low number. And of course, a tremendous amount of these will be literal just dilettantes who will pick it up and go like, okay, I'll have instant success. I'll make one video with a shitty microphone screeching into my at my monitor, and I'll be PewDiePie overnight. Obviously not. But there's also a tremendous amount of people who make very good, high-quality content who never get anywhere, and simultaneously see some people shooting to the top. And of course, that is the natural shit you see in any system. Some people always get lucky. The problem is we are not in an organic system. So for me, it's very difficult to determine whether or not it is open, whether or not it is fair, and if so, to what degree. Because I've seen this happen again and again in my own friend group. Like the earliest instance I remember where it was really obvious was with my good friend Sargon. I think Sargon had like 820,000 subs at a time, and he was talking about like his algorithms were like, okay, if I continue on the current pace, I'll have 1 million subs in 6 months, and he was really excited about it. Right, and then his sub growth just stopped. Like he showed me the back end of this, and it's just a cliff where his recommendeds just ceased, and it's like that is not normal.
No, that's not supposed to happen.
It happened again also with Jeremy, another guy I know. He had an enormous growth on his channel because he found that algorithmic sweet spot, and he hammered it in terms of length of video, in terms of style of video, in terms of thumbnails, etc., etc. And he had, I think he got like 1 million subs in 3 or 4 months. Like it was enormous. And again, then the algorithm changed, and simultaneously, that fucking wall again.
Yeah, and, but that's not targeting, right? That's just changing the rules of the game. But that's not like, for example, Sargon, who's like shadow banned.
I think it was targeting because you saw it very specifically, and he didn't change his content. And I've seen it on my channel too after it got hacked, and it ran a stupid ass like Bitcoin ad thingy. Whatever flag that placed on my channel is still there because I had a look at this. Once I got the channel back, I had 75% less recommendations than before the channel was hacked. And after like several months after that, I still have 50 to 30% less recommendations than I had previously. Like this channel we're on right now is getting almost as many recommendations as my main channel, despite being like 1/5 the size.
Well, now I'm really curious. What was your password, Arch? Why did you get hacked?
Why would I get hacked?
He's a boomer.
It was probably literally malware, I think, which I'm really pissed off against my antivirus system because whenever I get sent something by developers, I put it in a virtual sandbox thing, which my antivirus system has, and I run it in there just in case. And in this case, I ran it, and it was like, okay, it doesn't react on anything, so fair enough, we'll run it. And that was almost certainly the malware. And ever since, I'm like, no, Steam keys only.
Oh, yeah, okay, that sucks. So you were being diligent, but for some reason didn't work out.
I'm presuming it was literally one of those cracks in between, like the antivirus system getting the new definitions and the new bullshit coming out, basically. So that was annoying, but see, for me, I don't really give that much of a shit because I've never been particularly interested in subscriber counts. Like, okay, big EP and all that. The main channel makes plenty of money as it is, and the only thing that annoys me is that this channel is actually about to I'm getting maybe about a third or a fourth of the views, and I'm actually earning more money on this channel per view as well. So again, I'm seeing a lot of that back end, and it's painfully obvious to me, at least.
Well, yeah, if you have two accounts, then you can pretty easily compare, which is more interesting, I'd say. Like, I'm pretty new to YouTube. Like, I started in early 2021, so I can't really talk about it the extent that you can.
Well, that's fine. We can't all be smart.
Can't all be grandpa.
Oh, boomers.
That's true as well. Oh, it's my age. Ooh. You know that's a complex of mine, right? If you keep doing this, I'll report you to somebody. I'm sure it's a crime.
Yeah, it's ageism.
Arch
Ageism.
entering his 40s was pretty rough for him last year.
40s? Okay,
Yep, 40s.
You shut your mouth, fetus.
It's so mad. He's like, no. You're basically 40, Arch. It's time to accept the fact that life is over. Your golden days are gone.
Let's move this topic over to the fucking little trap over here.
He's mad, and that's not true. See, I have facts. You have falsehoods.
The little ANCAP anti-vax cat trap over here, too.
Falsehoods, like I said.
Is another excellent example of this. Because Kyle, despite his many, many failings and low mental and moral standing and general fat, rotund ugliness, and
Rude.
I could go on.
Well, he did
puts a
give
lot of
stoicism
effort
the
into
benefit
his
of the
channel.
doubt. No.
I did. I'm pretty based.
He's not that degenerate.
Open-minded, some might say.
He is.
Right.
Like, he absolutely is. You should see the shit he sends me.
An open mind is the dangerous mind.
Shut up, you. 40K quotes.
An
you.
open mind is like a fortress with its gates unbarred and unguarded.
Right.
Except that librarian turned evil.
The right
To
wing
move on
view.
to the point, Kyle puts a lot of time and effort into his channel. He's got more assets, more stuff, and more polish than pretty much any channel I've seen around his size. Now, he rips off most of his ideas from me, like, for example, with the
We
the
came
UI
up with that
background
together.
and shit, but
What the fuck? We worked together on that.
see what I mean?
But yes.
And yet, like, Kyle's algorithm is fucked.
Yes. It's all the N-words
Absolutely
you drop
good
on
old-
my channel.
That's the
Why
right
why do you think that is?
But there's actually a couple factors. Number one, I do Let's Play pseudo podcast sort of content where we get Arch, we get guests, and we just play games, and it's like a pseudo podcast. The second wing of my content that I do is game development. I talk about lore creation, and I do, show off the art design and of the game I'm working on and whatnot. And then there's a third wing, which is dilapidated and dead, and that's the Battletech lore stuff that's on hold. The reason why I'm not very big is I think it ties back to kind of what Janovich said. You can hop on other IPs. I chose not to. I chose to build my own. I built my whole channel around the concept of everything is unique. Everything has been made from the ground up, and it cost me everything. And that has its merits too, because other channels in my bracket, I talk to them and I tell them how my channel performs under the hood, and they're like, "How is that possible? How are you able to have such high viewer retention, have such high income, yet be like stagnant in terms of growth?" And it's honestly just, I don't know. It's like a freak incident where we have a channel that overperforms its bracket by light years, but for whatever reason grows at the pace of a snail. It's kind of great.
Yeah, because subscribers is basically the golden value you can chase for easy gains. But in that case, it's very interesting that you make substantial income from like less than 10,000 subscribers.
The very interesting part is here, because subscribers is the immediate feedback you can see from the algorithm, because that's what the algorithm affects. The algorithm doesn't affect your monetization necessarily, though it does to a certain degree, depending upon what kind of ads it shows you. But you can also edit that if you're particularly autistic. But the subscriber is the primary thing the algorithm does, because it goes like, okay, I've seen this video, so I'm going to show it to people who saw these tags, or I'm going to show it to these people just because, like with the recent PewDiePie T-Series controversy, where it turned out that YouTube was automatically recommending T-Series videos to people who were in India because they were in India, whilst not, of course, doing the same for PewDiePie in Sweden, etc. And in the case of Kyle's channel, his engagement and viewer retention, he earns more from Super Chats and stuff like that than V does with a channel 10 times his size.
It also helps that I invest it all back in the art assets, and then I show everything. So what chat does is they pay, and I'm like, look at all this concept art and these animations, and the music that we got composed for the game. That's because of you. So they get gratification in the fact that everything they give me turns up into development assets, and they get to see that. I think that also plays a big role in that as well.
So basically, Kips, you build the perfect community. While Arch, let's not get into that.
I see the dab you were going for, you little bastard.
I still earn more money than Kyle.
That's true.
No, but I'm in an interesting situation where I'm basically the only animator on YouTube who completely shares basically everything that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if you follow the Creating Vraks series, but it's pretty comprehensive. And I think that's also why my channel blew up the way it did, because people could really see all the
you get to see the behind the scenes
input.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to brag, but I think I may be one of the fastest growing Warhammer channels, or at least used to be. Like, not in actual, like, concrete numbers, but relatively, I'm a very small channel that grew very rapidly.
Very
like,
true.
for example, Major Kill, his monthly subscriber count is going up in absolute numbers way more, but relatively speaking, he's not reaching the same percentages.
Yep, and it helps that you show people. I honestly think that's a huge role. You know, you put in the time, you put in the effort, you're modest about it. You tell people what you do, because I do the exact same thing. I think we're a lot of alike in that regard. Like, I tell people that, you know, I don't sleep a lot. I work 10 hours a day, 7 days a week to support this hobby. I'm sure you make lots of sacrifices for your Vraks stuff as well. And I think people feel emboldened by that, or impassioned, if you will, and they want to contribute and support and actually help you carry that burden, that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also don't get why most of these channels don't do the same. Like, why would you pretend that everything is polished and everything is, you know?
Well, I think it might all boil down to the fact that maybe, not, this is again, the entire maybe, and it's down to individual, right? I think a lot of these people actually just pocket the money. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, some people make a living off of it. But they don't really divulge how much they spend on it. Or they're not very good with people. A lot of content creators I met are terrible with people. Like, their human interfacing skills are zero. You know, and that plays a huge role. You have to be able to interact and interface with your audience. Like, I host community events almost on a weekly to bi-weekly basis. I interact with my community because they support me, and I give them everything. And I'm sure you do, you know, the same thing. You interact with them, you talk to them. Not a lot of people do that. And it's understandable. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just what you do is you dissolve that parasocial relationship that a lot of channels have, and people are like, I can talk to you. I can actually reach out and touch you in a way. Not like, that sounds very weird.
Yeah.
That's what I was going for, but you know what I mean?
I basically read every comment. Maybe this has to stop at some point, because I would say it's not perfectly healthy to do that, but you know, and I respond to all people who reach out to me on Discord. I'm, you know, very polite to these people. I don't have an air of superiority. Maybe when I talk about Warhammer Plus, I'm a bit of a bitch, but most of the time.
Yeah, but that's because you're passionate about it. And honestly, people like passion, even if it isn't always, you know, something they agree with, because it shows that you care.
Yeah. So I asked my followers in a community post, like, what do you want to ask Arch? And one of those things was, what made you guys invest so much time into Vraks? What's the thing that interests you in Vraks? So I'm asking Arch, like, what drew you to the Siege of Vraks to do that whole big ass series?
I think I've figured it out.
Finally? No, kidding.
Fascist.
He switches his F's and his V's.
Oh my god, you autist. You were focusing on the speech pattern. See, I told you he's autistic. And, you know, we love him, right? But he's not all there.
Throw it out, Arch. What is it?
But for Vraks, like, I don't know. See, this is the thing. Like, I feel like I should say something soulful here. Like, oh, it was my life's calling. I sat up at night and dreamt of doing this thing. No, I was just like, yeah, everyone's lore videos are kind of boring because they just talk about a single thing. So I want to talk about a really big thing and have like pretty pictures and shit. And
I remember.
Literally, there you go. There's my motivation. There was that, and I figured like people might like watching this. I might get more subscribers.
But why Vraks over any other campaign in 40k? I think that's the question.
What other campaign in 40k is there?
I mean, there was.
I don't know. I only know Vraks, but I'm asking you.
That's the thing. They're boring. I've read every single Imperial Armor book. Like, I've got them all. I've got all of the Horus Heresy big ass leather fucking bound tomes that weigh a kilo goddamn each. I think I've got like 5 different PDFs of the same fucking book scattered throughout my PC at this point. And the Imperial Armor books are really, really, really goddamn cool in what they theoretically can do. And there were 2 before the Siege of Vraks. It was the Taros campaign and the Infelian Project. The Taros campaign is just fucking stupid because it sees the Talarn Desert Raiders forget what a fucking desert is and be out-deserted by the fucking Tau. And the Infelian Project...
we've recently seen what a Tau can do, and it's not much.
Exactly. And the Infelian Project is the dumbest thing I've ever read. Like, whoever wrote this had some serious brain damage issues, in my opinion. Because there's a story that starts, and then there's a few pages of build-up where you're like, oh, there's like research things and stuff. Like, there was a research-based research things. And then the Tyranids show up and eat everyone, and then the story's over.
Yes. Tell them about the numbers. I remember when you were working on it and you were complaining about the numbers.
Now that's further down the line, Kyle.
Yes, but it's also
go
still
back into your corner.
No, it's actually a huge part of this. Because I was there. I remember when you first started doing these things, and you were so excited. You're like, I'm gonna do them all because nobody does lore like me because I'm autistic.
They don't. That's true.
It's true.
The raid on Castoral Nova was actually pretty good. That was the one after the Siege of Vraks. The Doom of Mimra wasn't bad either. And that was the last like proper source book that GW released, because back in the day, GW released source books giving lore and history and meat to the universe. Now they release The Gathering Storm, which is Gurliman has a girlfriend now and Katie exploded. The end. Okay.
Me too.
Very well, if you say so.
No. I'm gonna be honest, like my thing is just World War 1. And I liked Warhammer 40k because Space Marine artwork, old school Space Marine artwork is just really amazing. It has this really amazing aesthetic, and when you combine those two, it's just Death Corps Creek. And that's it for me. And obviously I know about all the lore stuff, but I'm gonna use the word again, invested in Creek. And, that's my expertise, and I don't pretend to know anything else about 40k. To, accept the large storylines.
I know everything about everything else, too.
Yeah, we know this.
Thank you. There you go. I was right, and nobody objects. Fine. Because my thing, too, is, like, I am a huge fan of war in general, military shit. Like, I've read a lot about World War I, a lot about World War II. I'm planning a history series on all of this, but I really want that fucking animator first. And then I'm going to do World War I and II stuff, because there's so much cool shit there that is not covered anywhere near enough. And this was one of the things that really annoyed me about Vraks too, because the numbers, what do the numbers mean? Because real life history is often you can see where things is going. You can understand how things are happening. You can look at force levels. You can understand how the back and forth flow of combat works, numbers, etc. You get told about divisions, about regiments, about platoons. You get told about offensives. You get told about the logistics behind them, the number of shells, artillery pieces, tanks, fuel, etc. And then there's the occasional cool exception, like one that I will have to do at some point is the story of one Fritz Klingenberg. Don't know how deep you're into World War II.
Not as much as World War One, but
all right, well,
that's not a name. That's yeah.
Fritz Klingenberg got the entirety of the Serbian capital of Belgrade to surrender to him and 6 of his friends.
It's impressive.
Yes, it is. But these are, unsurprisingly, the exceptions when 17,000 men submit to 6. Like, this is relatively unusual.
Yeah, a couple of those things happened in World War One. Like I think it was one of those Belgian fortresses where they just basically walked in at some point with 5 men and just the whole fortress, gave up. But
yes, that was the Fortress of Liege, and that was Ludendorff. In fact, this was the event that catapulted Ludendorff into fame because it wasn't just 5 men. He had, I think, a solid platoon or so with him, but he walked up to this enormous fucking fortress, top of the line, most modern thing in the world at the time, and he famously beat on the door with his fucking cane, and a confused Belgian guard just comes out like, what? And he's like, surrender. What?
Aufgeben.
Yep. And they didn't even know what the hell was going on. There was just a very large, angry German beating on the door with a stick. It's like, okay, I guess we give up.
French in a nutshell.
Yeah, it was rather brilliant, really.
Yeah, it's genius.
There's a couple other examples. I think there was one World War II as well, where an American captain, I think, whose name I don't remember, had an entire panzer division surrendered to him because they were like, well, it's them or the Russians. Oh, history's fucking fantastic. But returning to the Vraks again. Vraks is just the coolest one out of the available Imperial armor books in almost every detail. One, because it's an enormous siege battle, which is awesome. Like a siege battle with guns is just cool. Then there's the Death Corps of Krieg, which is also just cool. And it's a war that evolves so drastically from, oh, we'll just siege you for a little bit and they'll totally surrender, to, Jesus Christ, there's a lot of guns in there. Best bring in some more dudes, to Space Marines coming around, demon invasions and shit.
Yeah, it's very diverse.
Yeah, it's just cool. But
and
what
even
annoyed me...
Even if you're not in the Space Marines, then Vraks can still be cool. Like, there's a lot of elements that are separate in a sense.
Like the Death Riders of Krieg. I had that one art piece done with a Death Rider impaling a dude on his explosive lance. Like, that's just cool.
Yeah.
But GW doesn't understand how warfare functions. And so they're like, oh, there's like 30 regiments on Vraks. And that's it. Like, okay, you brought like... what, 200,000 men? It's a bit weird. You sure this is going to be enough? And then they get into the actual battle. It's like, there are waves of millions upon millions of men are assaulting. Oh, they multiplied.
Something doesn't add up. Yeah. Yeah, when I first watched your Vraks lore series, I wasn't aware that you, took some creative liberties to like flesh out the story. But you actually did it really good. You added stuff where it was necessary.
I don't remember if it was at the end of the video or if I did a separate video, because I did have a thing where I basically mentioned, yeah, some of this shit doesn't make sense. I've had to make some of this stuff up because, again, it's like we're going to bring 30 regiments. Okay, this isn't enough. Like,
and the same goddamn thing happens in the new Krieg book as well. He's talking about like Jurgen is arriving on Krieg, with like he just got tortured by the Inquisition to talk about the High Council and and get their trust, and he returns to Krieg to intercept like the civil war with 6,000 people. Like that's gonna do anything.
It's gonna dent maybe a town.
40K has a very weird relationship with numbers.
Yeah, so basically from your video, my rule was just multiply by 10 or by 100, and then you're probably fine.
Yep. I think I did like multiply by 10 or 15 or something to make the numbers halfway reasonable, because I actually did the math originally, because they mentioned somewhere in the book how long the front line was. I was like, okay, if this is how many men you have, how many men will you have per like area of the front line?
Right, yeah, that's a good way to calculate.
And it ended up with something like one soldier every 150 meters. This seems unreasonable.
Yes. Because on the map it actually says the scale. There's this like tiny little ruler that says 40 kilometers for this piece, and then you could calculate it. I didn't think of that.
It was dumb. Like, it was just not enough soldiers by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, it needs some adding on, because GW tends to just state things like, oh, they arrived and they built trenches. Like, okay. Did they bring up digging equipment? Yes, probably. Supplies? Yes. There's like one mention of a Mechanicus train, and I'm like, okay, I know how massive trains are in 40K, but you're supplying an army of millions that have thousands of guns firing nearly non-stop every day. You're going to need more than one train, boss.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed the same thing when I was reading the Imperial Armor books. So I must admit, I took a lot of stuff from your series as well.
Beef.
Well, it's a compliment.
He's dabbing. He's just memeing. But yes, that is a mighty fine compliment.
What did you guys think of my Siege of Vraks animation? We haven't talked about it yet.
Which one? Is that the one where they dance?
The dark one where you can't see shit.
The dark one.
Oh my god, which one was that again? Did I actually? Let's look.
The short film.
The 5 minutes, 35 seconds?
Yeah,
the Siege of Vraks. That one was pretty cool. But that one, when did I watch that? No, it was only 4 months ago.
I uploaded it on Christmas.
Oh. Maybe I don't remember it that well, because that's there was a special work thing that I had to do. But I have it here as watched. I don't remember much about it. Give me some memory jogging stuff. My memory's terrible.
We kind of start with lightning effects, and we go to the Citadel, and we go to Xaven, having nightmares in his bed and demon voices inside of his head. And then you get a little bit of sneak peek from like an Alpha Space Marines. And a naked Sororitas, you should have remembered.
I remember the naked Sororitas. Not only because I hover mouse on the thumbnail, but I remember the side boob shot.
Gotcha. So, and then we go to the trench, and the Kriegers sneak up on those guys in the trench. And they stab 2 guys, and then they, basically conduct a trench raid, and then they signal back to the Krieg lines with Morse code.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember now, because I've seen a couple of like Krieg fan animations before. That's
really good ones as well.
This one's actually pretty good. In fact, I'm not going to play it on here because I don't want to spoil it, but I'm actually going to drop a link for chat. You should check this one out. There you go.
Now,
what was your opinion?
Unlike Kyle,
I think it was good.
Watched it before we were going on today to remind myself, because I'm
good.
I have respect for people who come on my show. Kyle!
That's not true. You're trying to dig yourself out of the hole you did. I respected his opinion and beliefs, therefore I have more respect points. Isn't that right, Janovich? Isn't that right?
Bloody right!
Damn right.
Let's go, Arch. What's your opinion?
My honestly, the thing I liked the best was the beginning, because at first I was thinking like, okay, this is going to be like a small scale like first episode, because when I first watched it, I was still under the impression you were making more, and then you disappointed me.
Yeah.
Because the idea of trench raids is one of those things that nobody ever fucking talks about, and yet the vast majority of the World War One and the vast majority of Vraks would have been fought by tiny groups of men who raid enemy trenches, who poke for weaknesses, who capture prisoners and drag them up back to their lines, etc.
Yep.
Like, it's a cool thing that isn't talked about. Now, you should have had them fire up a star shell instead of just shining into no man's land with a flashlight.
Oof.
I could have done a flare, but I was thinking you're gonna attract a lot of attention if you do that. Or it wasn't what you meant?
Yeah, the defenders, I mean.
All right. Yeah, I was considering it, but
He was just a lazy
too bad.
heretic after all. He probably didn't think of it either. Lazy, disgusting heretics. And then things escalated rather quickly until a warhound shows up.
yeah, the money shot.
The money shot. I also really like the little cameo for the Death Creek cavalry, though they probably wouldn't be used in escalades of this sort, this sort of trench attacks. They're more open line stuff.
Yeah, a lot of
And
people
also,
had the impression that it was sort of a trailer in a sense that because the ending was
does
very much
kinda
trailer-like.
give off that vibe, because
Yeah.
it feels like a little bit of like a shot of tons of different things coming together,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh, this is like a teaser thing.
Yeah. And so then the credits roll, and you're like, oh, fuck this.
Yes,
Fuck
this
this
person in
guy.
particular.
Yeah.
I was also looking at the horses, and I was thinking, I did study 3D animations way back when, which turned out to be a complete and utter waste of my fucking time, and I hate everything about it in these now. But I remember trying to animate a Skaven back then, a walking rat, and trying to figure out how their fucking legs moves, and how much I grew to hate rats and everything about them.
Yeah, good luck doing animation from scratch.
Yep.
To throw
Now,
in some
seeing-
jargon, did you try the FK legs or the IK legs? Inverse kinematics? Forward kinematics? What was it? Ah, I'm joking.
And I was looking at your horses, and I was thinking to myself, somebody doesn't like horses anymore.
Actually, I love horses. I can ride a horse.
Oh, you can ride a horse. That's even worse.
Yeah, man.
Personally, I am of the opinion that the only thing that's worthwhile about horses is that they're tasty.
It's good beef. Let's just put it like that.
Wow.
And it's
horse
cheaper than-
eaters.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe you.
Oh.
Next,
Like,
there's nothing
why-
wrong with eating dogs.
Imagine how much meat comes off a Creek steed.
Considering the amount of chemicals inside of those, I don't know if
Ah.
I'd want to.
A lot of the concept art shows them with like their flesh being gone on the bottom by their hooves.
Yeah, it's probably because they run into barbed wire all the fucking time.
Yes.
Ouchie
They
foots.
literally run through barbed wire.
I think they give them like shin guards or something. Poor things.
Why?
Would have been nice, but you know.
Like, they've got subdermal armor. They do have shin guards. It's just that they're on the inside.
Yeah, and if the shin guards work, then how come all you see is the bones?
Because it's subdermal.
It's inside
It's
the
literally
bone.
around the bones.
What's good about that if all the fleshy bits are gone? Now it's
But
infection.
but you were somewhat right that this was actually supposed to be part 1. So I was about halfway done with my, part 1 when the fan animation ban happened. So then for about 1 month I was like really, I wouldn't say depressed, but demotivated and pissed off. And also really uncertain. And then someone in the creator community sort of brought everyone together, and we started talking like who is getting approached by Games Workshop, who knows anything, and we sort of stabilized as the creator community. And then I sort of decided, okay, I'm just gonna finish this with the props I have, because I don't want to say to these people, look, I'm not gonna upload this with all like the help I got and all the people who were supporting me. And I knew it was a risk to upload it. Not that, like, I didn't think that GW would come after me, but I knew it was potentially a risk. And so I just thought, okay, I'm gonna finish this with the stuff I have. I'm not gonna develop any more props. Like I had made the Citadel, I had already made the model for the horse and the Warhound. So I rigged those, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna give these, I'm gonna put them in the cinematic at least, but I don't have infinite time. I need to do something else and move on from this cinematic as well, because I couldn't keep dragging out with all this uncertainty. So the script for part 1 was somewhat like, we have this trench raid and it ends in like a flare going up, and then there's complete mayhem with two sides going at each other and sort of leaving it at an open end. And then part 2 would start with we are on Creek, and we're starting to follow this character, and this character is getting sent to Vraks because Vraks is getting escalated because the Chaos Marines arrived. So that would be, the first episode would sort of be status quo, and then status quo gets destroyed because who knew Space Marines would fuck shit up, and then sort of the real story would start. But I was thinking in time spans of creating this cinematic of years instead of 6 months until Games Workshop treats me like a criminal.
Yep.
So yeah, I know why people are disappointed when it's just 5 minutes. I can totally understand it. And the whole thing is at night, which was supposed to be just one scene in the whole thing, and now it's the entire thing. And it's hard to see things because I still had to learn a lot of stuff. I wasn't as good with the software that I was using, so it's not perfect. And it's it would have been nice to also see some scenes in daylight, I guess.
Yeah, that kind of sucks when you have to cut a project short, especially over something so stupid as that.
Yeah.
All that work, all that effort.
And we're still pissed off, but...
You mean rightfully so, honestly.
So I kind of took the trick from TTS, as just said, this is going to be on indefinite hiatus until the ban lifts, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I have no faith in it ever going to be lifted. Because,
No.
the way copyright works is that if you don't acknowledge it and nobody brings it up, it's fine. Because you are required to protect your copyright, but no company actually does this to the extent theoretically demanded by law, simply because it's a lose-lose situation. You don't go after every fan artist. You don't go after every fan animator because it's stupid. It benefits absolutely no one. But the moment you start doing this, like GW has done now, they have now acknowledged that they know of the fan animation community. They have acknowledged that they do know that they view this as a violation of their copyright. And if they were ever to go out and say that they're either fine with this or tacitly accept it somehow, they wouldn't be able to go after almost anything after that because they will not be protecting their IP. In fact, if somebody was a particularly large cunt, they could go to the company and say, hey, this is mine now. Like, why? It's ours. No, you're not protecting it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, they only dug their hole deeper.
Yeah.
And there would have been so many, actually nice alternatives. They could have just started sponsoring these fan creators, even if it's just, let's say, a couple $100 a month. And then make them sign a little contract saying, okay, I know this is from Games Workshop. I can get terminated anytime they want me to, but I'm sponsored, so it's all fine.
Yep. I mean,
and that would have been peanuts for Games Workshop.
Yep. There's tons of ways. Like they didn't even need to actually charge or do anything. All they could have done would be like, hey, if you want to make us fan creations, for legal reasons, we're going to need to be authorized. We're going to need to sign this waiver thing. But after that, you're authorized to make fan creations and stuff like that. Bada boom, it's done. But the problem is that's very what we call ethical or kind. And Games Workshop isn't any of those things. They hate their audience. They hate everything because they look at you guys as just like cows. You're to be milked and cast cast aside when you're done. I mean, look at how their store policy is. Like, a lot of the store owners even came out and were like, this is awful. Like, it's ruining our communities because they're telling us that we have to eject people as soon as they make the purchase, like, get them out of the store. Like, we don't, once you have their money, they're no longer useful. If they're not going to buy, shoo them out of the store as quickly as possible. Like, it's just scummy. Horrific.
Yeah, and some fans don't realize this, but if you're a creator, especially you will notice, Arch, people will just contact you out of the blue and tell the most like horrendous stories of their experience with Games Workshop. And you're like, okay, that's just very interesting, but I can't do anything with this information, but thanks for sharing. And you start to like see a pattern that isn't available to the general fans, right?
GW is a very bad company, like on every level. Like, they're outright abusive to their store partners. The people working in their stores are often under not particularly great circumstances as well when it comes to their employment. And the people who are making it, we've had a lot of misconceptions about them as well. And the problem too is that a lot of them have moved away from their original creation, and a lot of them have found themselves in the current year, so to say it, and they are desperately trying to cover their asses in many ways. Like, recently, one of the first creators of 40K came out on a Facebook post. Sargon, I think, mentioned this in his essay too, and was like, "Oh no, the fact that there's male Space Marine has nothing to do with the lore." Like, okay, why did you write it like this then? Well, it's we wrote the lore because of economic reasons. Okay, so it has to do with the lore now. So the problem is they're now trying to row it back, in essence, and disassociate themselves with it, like they did with the Imperium, like they've done with their fan community in general on several occasions. The very fact that we had the Warhammer is for Everyone post the same moment they actually began gating off the Warhammer community.
Yeah, but if they had integrity, they would have just said, we like female Space Marines, and we're going to keep selling them, even though people don't buy them. Because we think this is integral to 40K, but that's not what they did.
Yeah, because it wasn't integral to 40K. In fact,
it could have been if they wanted it to, but not anymore.
It's such a scummy goddamn company. And right now, half of the things they're doing too is literally for the reason that they want to sell. The current owners of GW don't want to own GW anymore. They want to get it moved over to presumably Hasbro, where one of their executives came from. That's why they're squeezing everyone like mad now. That's why the prices are increasing. That's why Warhammer Plus is a thing, why it's a subscription service rather than something free they do for the fans. Because the thing is, what are you subscribing to when you're subscribing to Warhammer Plus? You're subscribing to be advertised at. You are given Warhammer White Dwarf magazines, a commercial magazine.
Yeah.
You are literally paying to be advertised at. And recently they announced a Necromunda box set with 20 figures in it. Some people have said 26. I've heard 20. And some terrain for $300.
Sounds good.
Highway fucking robbery.
And people,
you can buy a 3D printer for $300.
You can.
That's true.
And you should.
GW is a scummy corporation. And probably, sadly, always have been. But at least they used to be a scummy corporation that gave a shit about what they were making.
At least a little bit. Or pretended to be.
And there's sometimes people come with this argument that, when I started being critical of Games Workshop on their animations, they were like, Games Workshop has always been this way. Why didn't you stand up like 10 years ago? And I'm like, bro, I don't care about the miniatures. I'm an animator guy, so I'm gonna say stuff about animations. So, like, you are free to talk about the miniatures if that's your thing. It wasn't my thing, so I'm not obliged to talk about it. Like, I knew what was going on with the price increases because I played Lord of the Rings 30 Battle game, which was a fun game, by the way. But, everybody has their expertise, everybody has something they're interested in, and you're not obliged to talk about every bad thing there is.
Yeah.
Unless you're Arch, you talk about everything bad.
I mean, you gotta focus on your
Somebody has to.
interests. If you do everything, like, if you focus on all the negatives, you're gonna be in a bad place mentally.
Yeah, but it's just not a good argument to, what do you call it?
Yeah, they're trying to shut down your criticism.
It's not a discredit of your argument. It's just saying, you weren't complaining back then, so you have no right to complain now.
You can't criticize something that's totally within the realm of criticism. That's absurd.
Right.
Well, it's because the companies have done an incredibly the companies in part too, but it's also from where the fandom comes originally. Something like 40K or gaming, these were niche things where we built up a certain parasocial relationship with these companies because they were providing us with our geeky, retarded hobbies that we enjoyed playing. And
That's a good description.
Yeah, of course. And that naturally meant that a lot of us wanted to defend them. And I've been there too, where it's like, okay, I know these companies, they're doing their best. They're trying to deliver some things. And then they kept shitting on me again and again, delivering yet worse and worse garbage. And eventually you learn. But it takes a very long time, particularly also as the companies as well have realized this and have begun to, many cases, weaponize their fandoms via certain scummy tactics. Creative Assembly and Paradox are absolute star examples of this, where they police their forums tighter than a German Stalag. You say nothing mean about their companies on their website. If you do, people will yell at you, and then the truck will the thread will be closed for disruptive
You will be put
behavior.
in the truck. Yeah.
The gulag for you.
But to be fair, if Games Workshop starts making good animations, then I'm going to stop complaining. I don't care how expensive those miniatures get.
Yep.
Somebody else can complain about that.
Because your interest is animation.
Exactly. And when is Arch going to stop complaining? That's the real question.
It's part
When
of
they
the
start
blonde
making
nature.
good shit again.
That's true. But I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't think we'll ever hear the end of it.
I'm very, very simple to please. Just make something good.
Wait, how many episodes of Halo was there left?
3.
Too many.
Can it still be...
A terrible foundation that's been
I
built
mean, if
upon
the
is
last
still a
3
terrible
episodes are
foundation.
nothing but action and shooting, and then at the end, Master Chief wakes up with his helmet on and goes like, I had the really weird dream that I was an Argentinian, and then shoots an alien, I'll be like, yeah, that was a fantastic TV show.
It's still a crappy foundation.
It was all a dream. Plot twist.
Yep, that'd be fantastic.
So what's season 2 going to be? Because that's already pre-approved.
It would just be more action. It would just be Halo. It would just be Master Chief never removing his helmet, shooting aliens.
Yeah.
Then maybe a romance subplot where he tries to figure out how to fuck Cortana.
No, they started going down that the new
Leave
lore.
that to the fans, they'll do it better.
Yeah, they'll do it better, and it'll be less cringe.
And she'll actually be hot then.
That's true. Never doubt the fan artists. They are talented.
And here's the thing. Again, I don't want GW to be shit. GW wants to be shit.
Right, yeah.
That's how I view it. Because there are so much that can be good and that still is good. The problem is we don't make it here anymore. I recently finished watching a Korean drama called Military Prosecutor Doberman. It has a dumb name for Western standards, but it is a fantastic fucking show that does something you just don't see in our entertainment anymore, where it manages to make sympathetic villains without giving them some kind of, like Thanatos, for example, is like, oh, things must be balanced. Okay, this is a fundamentally understandable position taken to the absolute extreme. All right, somewhat sympathetic. In these cases, the villains are bad people. Like they're like one of them, for example, is just a rich boy who beat another child until he lost his eyesight and didn't even feel bad about it. Like he abuses people on the regular. He's a complete and utter asshole. then he gets sent to the military. He's abused in return, and he has an arc where he eventually, slowly but surely, realizes over several episodes, yeah, this is wrong. This does suck, and he has to deal with a lot of the mental baggage because he was fucked up to begin with because his mother is a monster as well, and he explores these things in a very interesting way that actually makes you end up being sympathetic to a character you absolutely hated because you've been given so much more context and evolution in that character.
Yeah, it sounds like a Dostoevsky novel. I totally butchered the name, but you know what I mean.
Russians. Bad people.
Dobre.
Wow.
I'm gonna take a leak and get some drink because my throat is really dry.
Understandable.
Do that. Well, I will probably start moving on to Super Chats.
Already? Damn.
Yes. Oh, right. Kyle, when is Factorio expansion coming out?
Steam, come here. Steam. What the fick? I must have closed it. Library. What's it called? Factorio. My brain forgot the name. Holiday facts to the moon. No doubt you've heard something of the latest block. What? How does that have to do with anything? Minor features: the multiplayer game browser, GUI optimization, bug fixes, bunch. We support Ukraine. Developers being political. God fucking damn it! This is a terrible trend. Friday facts. They're doing it with the Steam Deck. That was February 4th.
Ukraine isn't political, Kyle. Ukraine is the thing.
Studios and developers should focus on making games fun. It's our job to keep people happy and entertained. It's not our job to bring up sad things. Also, the expansion news. Hello, long time no talk. We've got some catching up to do. Almost 1 year ago, we said we don't think that the expansion will take less than a year to develop. Well, it has been less than a year, and it's still not finished. Or it is not finished, I'm adding words there. So we kept our word on that with a smiley face. But, okay, so there's a whole blog post on it, for fuck's sake. So the expansion is still in development. This is, I think, the same post we read on February 4th. It's got an organic brain. Ooh. That's an interesting piece of concept art.
Who's paying the most?
What are you talking about?
No answer to me.
Oh, we're
You
talking
have
about
disappointed me yet
Factorio.
again.
Factorio is coming along nicely, but their expansion pack isn't ready to be fully announced, sadly.
Oh, it isn't. Goddamn lying slut. Right. Now that I've procrastinated enough for Janovich to return after having got himself whatever swamp Germans drink, I don't want to think about it.
A Coca-Cola? Yes.
Es ist heiße Wasser. Ja?
Ah. He's doing the Kaiserreich speech at me. Stop it.
Saxony speech.
Saxony? Oh, somebody sold hard on Saxony. You like that Prussian art style, don't you?
It's basically World War One. So, and it has gas masks.
Gas masks is an easy win.
Kyle, you go into
shovels, another easy win.
And only come out when you're cold.
I'll do what I want. You can't silence me. I'm the one who streams these things.
Well, you can only silence yourself then.
He's like, oh, that's kind of true.
I'll start with Andrew Jackson, who says #BreedKibs. Also like. Thumbs up. Good. We start out well. Glowy says, I donate to Kibbs to make jokes at his expense or to mess with him. I heard from others that he might be more of a prostitute. Send cheek pics on only Kibbs. Yes. That's the real reason why Kyle gets a lot of super chats. It's nothing to do with this silly little game, which will never be finished or in beta.
Oh.
It's because of chicks.
Can't believe that. It's always great that the super chats are always revolving around mean, horrible things. But, you know, whatever.
Mark ashamed. Remember, you can't spell anti-fan without Antifa. That's correct.
Interesting.
Genguin 47. What part of the below water land is he from? You did mention this, but regale us again with tales of where your house is precisely.
It's actually called below sea level. Thriving below sea level.
Oh no. You're gonna be underwater. It'll be like
no.
barotrauma.
Just below sea level, not underwater.
Why not?
Kyle doesn't know the difference.
How can we make you underwater?
Just blow up the dikes. Well, not the dikes. Well, it's a bad translation.
Under the sea, that's where you'll be.
Blow up the dikes. That's a rather radical solution to
Cancelled.
the SJW problem.
Cancelled.
But,
Bit violent, but okay.
if you say so. That's almost inhuman.
There we go. Below sea level represent. All the Dutchies in the house.
Janovich says, Arch, take your Sunday children, send the money 40k Black Crusade campaign so that Disco can fulfill her destiny and become a demon prince. Don't you mean a demon princess?
Yeah. I was about to say that. Damn.
Chloe says, the problem with arguing with these activists is if accepted, a bad thing is bad, and within the hobby, they take that as a sign you will not defend your hobby, or that your hobby is tainted, therefore it needs to be cleansed. If you disagree, you support it. Well, yes, that is one of the things, too, when you try to argue with an absolutist position. If you admit that a thing is bad, they will simply just take that and then stonewall you and everything else. It's kind of the Mott and Bailey, where they protect their weak arguments, their weak argument with a strong one, and usually one that you are willing to admit to, and then they'll sneak past everything else. Like, aha, so you agree on this little thing. That means we're going to have to destroy everything.
You spend way too much time doing these argument things, I think. We need to help.
Kyle's like, what's a Mott and Bailey? Don't worry about it, Kyle.
I know
It's
what
just
a Mott
water
and
metaphor.
Bailey is, you monkey. Actually, Medieval 2 taught me what that is, believe it or not.
Yes. It's that kind of Mott and Bailey we're talking about.
No, it's not that
It's
kind
a
of
true
Mott and Bailey.
classic.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I will not be teased on this stream.
Yansui01 says, head pats for the gas mask man. Indeed. Why we must insist that the Imperium is good, says Sargaruni. Sargon is like, yes, fascism does have its advantages.
Wait, what? Are you putting words in his mouth?
It is the point. Like, if you're up against somebody who argues that everything is bad, your only real option is to argue that no, it's actually pretty cool. Mark DeShame says, which was worse, Warhammer Plus or CNN Plus? Well, Warhammer Plus is still alive, so objectively, CNN Plus was worse.
Wait, CNN Plus was a thing?
Yeah, like, this demonstrated even the American is like, hold on.
What the hell? Who would pay for that?
No one, as it turned out.
You are putting words in Sargon's mouth. Look at that. He's trying to correct you. I knew it.
No, that is true. I have myself argued that the Imperium of Man is not a fascist state. It is far more of an oligarchical theocracy than anything else. In fact, it cannot be fascist by the very definition that it cannot be centrally governed.
It's true.
No comment.
Oh, traitor, heretic, even.
I might have to school them on fascism at some point in the future, but
Please do,
that's
Arch.
life.
Please.
One of our private sessions.
You can enjoy that by yourself.
Killer Kriegsman says, keep up the good work. Thank you very much. And Gunfox61, Kibbs is Canadian. I knew it. Hashtag Rosa smack Kibbs' cheeks.
False.
Don't know about that. I think correct. Black 1917 says, Squack and Hail Arch Christ, our Lord and Savior. Breed Kibbs and hi Janovich. Happy gas mask noises. Also, could please hold your cat up to the mic while it meows. Black is obsessed with the kitty noises as per usual.
Yep.
The cat ears are strong with you guys, so it's no surprise.
Just the ANCAP cat trap.
That's pretty cool.
The first impression, I showed Kyle's icon, his avatar,
Oh,
to a
God.
VTuber once, and their very first response was, "Wow, that looks peggable."
Yeah, it's okay. Rose and I ended up teaming up against Arch, so...
You are the only one who's of this opinion. You are a constituency of one.
The VTubers are on my side now. I've won the younger vote.
Groomer. Tank Imperator donates a very generous 100 Canadian dollars. Thank you very much. That's probably $5 at least. Canadian dollars. I didn't even know Canada was allowed to have a currency. The reason why they are losing touch is because they have been infested by university graduates taking over HR departments. That's where the rot starts, and until companies either cut out the rot or end up facing massive consumer revolts, this will continue to happen. It is within HR, yes, but it is also just the companies in total, because this is the current day argument. Like, this is the pitch. This is the currently accepted thing, and it is pushed everywhere, not just within SJW circles, but from the very government itself. Like, critical race theory used to be taught as a recommended course, and then eventually a what's the word? Not recommended. No, I recommend as well, but also a English compulsory course for federal workers in the US.
As it should be.
It is quite a wide problem. The Dastly Dutchman, Swamp German, Norwegian. It's just a very northern dialect of Dutch. Just wait, the Dutch will rise again, and New Amsterdam shall be reborn.
Yes.
Dutch,
Specerijen.
Dutchland is like 5 people on an island. Nobody cares. It's
Honestly, the
irrelevant.
Dutch are pretty based and should probably guide their Scandinavian children to, a better empire. Yeah.
Like, the Netherlands is not a nation for the simple reason that it can be defeated by exploding dikes.
You got it right. You actually paid attention.
Oh my god.
Exactly. Driving for another very generous 100 Canadian dollars. Thank you very much, sir. Never even played the tabletop, but I like the lore which I was introduced to by Arch. Then others, then YouTube animation started popping off. Then GW came down on independent animators who were given them free advertising. GW shot themselves in the foot. They did. But again, it's because they were in the middle of commodifying their IP. They want to sell the IP itself. They want to sell animations, as in the case of Warhammer Plus. They want to sell the models, obviously. They want to sell more of the books, and they want to sell the entire IP full scale, presumably to some massive-ass toy company who will then do unspeakable things to it. See, we think it's bad now. Like, Janovich is like, as long as I can be allowed to animate in my basement. He's Russian now, I don't know why. I'll be happy.
Right.
Well, I
And
can
then
animate
it'll
in
be
my
a
basement.
Disney
I can just
IP.
not publish it. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
That's true. You can
I
animate,
can animate
whatever
as
he
much
wants.
as I want.
Under the secrecy of, I don't know how
Of
deep
the
the
dikes.
basement is. Or that.
Then a lawyer knocks on his door wearing a pair of Mickey Mouse ears and going like, are you compliant with the Mickey Mouse regulations?
The Mickey Mouse regulations.
All established characters must carry Mickey Mouse ears.
Hey, Mickey Mouse is on its way out now. The days are numbered.
Well, I mean,
Hopefully.
if Florida goes the way it looks to be going, then Mickey Mouse might very well be public property soon. Common use.
Sounds
That would be
pretty
interesting.
based to
Should have
me.
been like 30 years ago, but
Yeah.
that's another issue.
Disney did a good job dragging out the legal battles. Maleficus Shai Khan says, you many to get the Siege of Vraks guys. Oh, you managed, I'm presuming, to get the Siege of Vraks guy. Damn Kibbs. Actually, I didn't even... See, Janovich came to me, okay?
That's
Problem.
true. And I had been
Ask-
telling Arch for months, by the way. They're like, hey, that Janovich guy, he's always in your comments. Probably should
I
invite
did.
him on.
I did. I sent him an email and stuff. And then he never responded.
Well, and then I was in your comments, and then your fans basically replied and said, dude, get in contact with Arch, please. So I did. I'm a nice guy.
Questionable.
Giving the fans what
Kelly
they want.
Greensman.
Dang.
I have 7 Titans. I was rich. That's a good way to look at it.
Now you've got plastic garbage. How does it make you feel?
To be fair, Titans are pretty cool.
Games Workshop product. They're not cool.
Even if Khan's a little jealous.
Only a little.
Titus Metchen says, so Kibbs, are we going back to the Cheeks guy from a few years ago? Also,
What?
swamp German noises.
Read it. What did he say?
Lange leve Nederland.
Prachtig.
He said brat.
That's what he said.
Bratwurst. That's what I got out of that.
Prachtig.
Bracht. Means good.
I wouldn't have guessed.
Down in the dark. Arch, you only have to worry about Norway tax agency. Kibbs has to deal with the IRS, who takes down the mafia and takes you to the ends of the earth. They will have their pound of flesh, or in this case, cheeks.
That's true. They'll take all my money, and then they'll take me and put me in jail.
My tax service isn't much worse. It's like, you forgot this triplicate form 7 years ago. Well, I guess that means we're going to have to retroactively charge you 7 years worth of things. Because that's the beauty of it. The taxman has no status of limitations. They can pile up the charges wherever they can find them, whenever they can find them. But if you're 5 minutes late, oh, god damn, you're a criminal now.
Late fee time. That's what they love.
It does feel like taxes are a theft on occasion. Sandu, I love hearing the stuff on animation as I'm learning 3D animation. Beginner level stuff, but I'm working on it. Glad to hear this on the difficulty. Stop working on it. It's horrible. It's awful. I hated it.
Oh, wow.
Get a good paying career, and you'll be better off.
Yeah, sure. Any cane can be alleviated by money. Shadow Toad Lian Yang says, I sent you a DM of a video covering the failure of RTSS. Did you watch it? And if you did, what did you think?
RTSS.
RTSS. RTSS.
Let's Google.
Janovich, is this you? Have you been sent DMs about RTSS?
What is RTSS?
Okay,
Failure
so
of RTSS.
Roller Coaster Tycoon. Or RCT. Never mind.
What does RTSS stand for? See, first thing I was like, real-time strategy. Strategy, yeah.
Oh. Well,
I'm
it's
not sure
late.
either, sadly.
I don't know.
It's bedtime. Arch, hurry up.
Get snappier with them. This is good.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I see it now. I see it. RTS. Next major RTS will fail. This is why. I don't
watch those video essays. It's just
it's a YouTube video though. I don't like watching YouTube videos.
I don't watch YouTubers. What do you think I am? Good.
I mean, it's an interesting idea that the next great RTS will fail inherently, and that StarCraft will forever be the ruling champion. But I mean, StarCraft itself has fallen drastically over the years. Like,
The real strategy game is Age of Empires 2.
Oh my god.
You don't need anything else.
They're still adding stuff to that game. It got a new expansion.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting co-op campaigns. Like, dude, what the hell?
Title is clickbait. Oh, is it one of those videos that starts out like, our next RTS will fail, and then 5 seconds into the video. But not really, though.
But actually not. I mean, clickbait, man, it gets clicks. It's got 6,000 views.
It's more complicated.
Yeah, I hated that with the whole wave of the tank is obsolete videos, because they'd start like, I think the tank is obsolete, except we have nothing to replace the tank, and we can't really get rid of it, and we have so many of them, and I guess the tanks are around to stay. Like, okay, so this was a pointless video. Thank you.
Thank you for the click. Please subscribe. Please.
Tank Imperator says, the original title of the Communist Manifesto was A Communist Confession of Faith, but it's certainly not a cult. No, totally not a cult. Except for all of the cultic elements, I suppose. That's at least the Dutchman. Sorry, but sounds like Janovich is a conscious cattle. I have to agree.
Wow.
I have to agree.
You guys can't just respect people. Let people live their lives.
If you don't know Epictetus, then you don't have a right to speak. I take away your freedom
Epicurus,
of
you mean.
speech.
He's like, right click.
I have denied you by telling you how things are said in non-German.
Not Epicurus, he's a different philosophy stream compared to Stoicism. That's Epicureanism.
Is this true, though?
Epictetus is Stoicism. Nice comment. Janovich is not idealistic, he is naive. Thank you.
Naive.
Bit mean.
Let me see if I can translate this from Swamp German. Oh, the retard with the crutch. Yeah, he's dumb too. I don't like him. Everyone's just sounding confused.
Sargon's excited to chime in. He loves his philosophy, I can tell.
No, actually, the retard with the crutch is an inspiration for something different I'm dealing with as well. Since the thing is, I don't know. Like, I always felt like his teachings was more along the lines of, okay, you need to surrender to certain things that you can't control, but you should also actively try to control the things you can control and interface with reality within your limitations. And I mean, in the modern day world, I would consider that to consist of democracy as well, like social media, etc.
Like, engage with all the tools at your disposal. So, yeah, that would include social media, because that is another tool.
Yeah. Like, that's always been
Unless
my
I'm
interpretation of the
misunderstanding
guy
this.
anyways, but I haven't really read into it much. Because the only thing that really stuck in my mind was his statement that you should try to affect that which is in your power.
So your
Like,
immediate
I always
sphere.
felt that was a very proactive, actually, idea.
So it's like, whatever's in your immediate sphere, like, is there different levels of that sphere of influence? Like, you're direct, and then there's, like, more indirect further away? I don't really get it.
I believe he defined what is not in our power as more lofty elements like like power or fame, etc. Like the things we cannot directly affect.
But if we
with
never
just-
try, we'd never get to Mars. What the heck?
Well, then that's the thing. It's very much so the view of a Greek person from, what was it?
What period of Greece? Because Greece went through multiple periods. One a big sad time.
I think it was after Christ, I'm pretty sure, fairly early. But again, it's been a while.
So under Romans,
Yes.
the Greek Romans.
Because of course, today, no, you can absolutely affect these things. These are now within our power. The loftier concerns that we can't necessarily interact with directly are very different. Because back then, of course, no, you can't directly interface with many of these things. You cannot necessarily gain power. You cannot necessarily gain glory. These may not be within your power to gain. Today, they absolutely are. Whereas the things that may not be in your power to gain would be more correctly be entitled as influence. Like, you can gain power, but can you gain influence, and how much power? Relative power.
I mean, look at Arminius, right? Arminius betrayed the Romans, Varus's legion. So, and he gained a significant amount of power, even though he was, like, not the highest standing person ever, especially within Rome. So it's all about how you do it too,
but
and when.
The dichotomy of control, if we get into philosophy again, the idea is that there are certain things that you can influence, but you don't have control over. Like, for example, your wealth, or like, of course, effort matters. If you don't put in any effort, then nothing's going to happen. But there are things you have complete control over, which are, for example, your character, telling the truth. And in Stoicism, those are the only things that matter, because those are the only moral things you can do. Like, wealth is not a moral thing.
Well, that's the thing. I Again, I read Epicestus. I think I was.
Yeah,
I
nice.
think I read him as Epicestus. No, your pronunciation is probably more correct than mine, to be honest. But the way I read it, honestly, in the modern dichotomy, is that you do have control over these things more so. Like you're like wealth, for example. In a modern society, you absolutely do have control over wealth because there's a tremendous amount of apparatuses in play to guarantee you your possessions, your privileges, and your wealth. Now, you can lose your wealth. You can lose your wealth via mismanagement, via active action. But once you have built up a certain amount of money, like that is yours within the limits of that state.
And to some extent, you can foresee in the foreseeable future that's not going to change. But if you, for example, read up on Black Swan theory, then you sort of start to understand better that it's still not in your control. Like you cannot predict Black Swan events.
Yeah, but at that point, you also arrive at the idea that if nothing can be controlled, there is no point in controlling it. Like you have to simply assume
there are things you can control, which are your character.
Well, no, you can't. That's the thing. Can you truly control your character in the age of social media? Like, if you are under massive pressure from an overwhelming amount of people...
But I don't mean how people perceive your character. I mean, can you tell the truth? Yes.
You can
try to be a good person? Yes.
You can try, but you can also be affected in those things. In the same way that the economy can affect you. Suddenly something becomes more expensive and you don't have access to that thing anymore. Your wealth disappears. In the same case, your character can very quickly become compromised. Because most people, if surrounded by a baying horde saying, say this, say this, say this, and it goes against your character, most people will say the thing.
Yeah, but Stoicism does not assume that you will automatically do the good moral thing. It requires practice. So you need to practice telling the truth. You need to practice being a strong character, trying to be the best version of yourself. It doesn't come automatically.
Yeah, but again, that leads us back to these other things are also in your power. Like in the modern day, like influence is in your power, wealth is in your power, but you do have to work at these things too.
Fair enough. Next!
We simply have two different interpretations of his teachings. This is fine too.
Good. I didn't have to intervene this time. They did it.
Kyle.
We made friends.
You don't understand what anyone is saying.
Gibbs is now the UN. Corrupt, bloated, and useless.
Glow in the Dark says, first they came for comics and I said nothing. Then they came for Star Wars and I said nothing. Then they came for me and no one spoke out for me. Lots of people are attacking Janovich in the super chats. Very cruel.
Don't be mean.
It's outside my control. It's not a moral good or evil, so I don't care.
But you can choose to call them all cuckolds.
It's true.
And that would be a very nice thing to do.
That would be a very nice thing. Interesting interpretation.
That could be your moral compass in this case.
I mean, technically, everyone who super chats is a cuckold to some extent.
Don't say that. My simps won't. They'll stop donating.
No. Simping and cuckolding are two different things. Like, as a fan of NTR, I have to step up and defend this here, okay? Because NTR is funny.
Cuckolding for fuck's sake! Here we go again. You and your fetishes.
Let's go, Arch.
What's funny is funny, Kyle. Mark James says, at Kibbs, so on the Angels Fall First Discord, the Spiffing Brit was there discussing with the devs about scheduling a stream after the long-expected update. The dev said it's 14 days away to flatten the bug curve.
Okay. They memed? Is there something bad about that?
Well, I presumed he'd be more like that you were going to play it or cover it in 14 days or something.
I mean, I'll take a look at Angels Fall First again, and I'll see if it's worth looking into, and then I'll drag Blondie along.
No, you won't.
Yeah, well. I've got dirt on you somehow.
You won't.
Yeah, well. Blackmail you.
Glow in the Dark says, Elon Musk buys GW, says it's cheaper than buying models individually. Not far from it. Glowy, Janovich doesn't understand if you don't stop people from shitting on your street, it will spread. We don't want to be California. California. There is actually an application in California that tries to map out where homeless people shit on the street.
Yep. It's a thing. Gross.
Oh, California. Viking Kiwi. I got a bit tired of the amount of clickbait from Jeremy, so even if he didn't change his content, I just kind of got tired of the way he did it. It just ended up getting too much for me. I can see that too. I religiously watch like pretty much every one of Jeremy's videos for a while, but when it's like 3 or 4 or 5 a day, yes, I can see the tiring stuff coming again. But the really notable thing for him was the sudden and rapid growth loss, because normally you've always got people getting sick of your shit and moving on to other things, but normally the subscriber count rise builds up or prevents this from actually seeing you go down all that much. Jan Zui 01 almost sounds like designers need PR people. Oh, they do. Designers are often autistic. Introduction. I have a list of books for you to read. 1984, Animal Farm. We, A Brave New World.
It's Bobby's first read.
Brave New Animal Farm, sure, because my grandmother actually bought me Animal Farm when I was like 10 or 12 or something, because she was like, pretty pictures of animals. It's a children's book.
Yes.
That freaked me out a little bit.
There's some very nice animations about it.
Brave New World. More people need to read Brave New World, and more people need to actually read Brave New World, because you will not believe the amount of people who view that as some kind of utopian vision. It is weird. The Grizzly. Kibbs, are you going to play any of the new Battletech tabletop? They finally advanced the timeline, and the clans took Earth. Such wow. Much Clan Wolf.
Oh. See, the problem I have is what I mentioned back earlier. Like, Battletech I think is cool. I like its human, like, cyclical nature of man thing that it's got going on, where it's like humans just repeat, the same things no matter how much power they're given. And it's really cool. It's interesting. But honestly, after the Jihad era, and maybe during the Jihad era, it felt like the writing went all over the place and character story arcs just ended abruptly. Then they did the Dark Age. And in my view, that's like the writing that comes after the Ilkhan and the Republic of Sphere era. It's built upon shoddy writing, in my opinion. And I think, if something's built upon bad lore, it devalues it. So I had a hard time getting into any of the new stuff at all, actually. That's my opinion. You can carry on with supers now.
I just want to wait and see if chat thinks your opinion is invalid so I can condemn it or not.
I mean, I have no idea what the state of the Inner Sphere is after the Dark Age, because I stopped reading.
Kyle, you're the Mech Warrior person. Go read it.
Battletech. And Mech Warrior's a video game. Microsoft license. It's a good game series.
No, it's Mech Warrior.
They're separate.
Mech Warrior. Say after me, Kyle. Mech Warrior.
Barge Warrior. There you go.
Rebellious face. Mark ashamed. Janovich, remember the Rise of Skywalker scene with horses on a Star Destroyer?
Yeah, I read
that was stupid. But change the setting to have Krieg Death Riders charging on a murder class Chaos Cruiser is awesome.
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
Oh, God. The fucking Oh, my God, the Star Wars movies. Oof.
I love Star Wars, but the sequel trilogy is garbage. You missed nothing. Good for you. I envy you, actually. That was
you missed loads. Okay,
no, you didn't. You're good.
Listen,
you're good.
If the intention of media is to give us all emotions, Star Wars gave me many emotions.
Halo is doing pretty good.
Halo is.
Yes, it's giving me some emotions too.
No, not that Halo. That real Halo.
What? Yeah, no, we're watching real Halo right now. What's wrong with you?
It's a video game. There's 3 games: Halo 1, 2, and 3.
You mean those old ass shitty? No. We're talking TV show, of course.
Old ass coming from you? I don't want to hear it.
Sort of depends. Is being bored an emotion, or I don't know.
I mean,
Yes,
it's
it
an
is.
emotional state, certainly.
Interesting.
I would classify it as such. Like, I certainly feel my emociones bored.
Oh, I'm triggered by some of the people in chat. Oh God.
Kyle has been called out. Good.
No, they're not being calling me out. They're like, all I know is what I learned from the Sword String song based on it. And the fact that you learned lore from a song, like, I'm not sure if that's cool or if I'm triggered and upset by that, because that just sounds weird. It's like, I learned about biotech through a song. It's like, there's so much to it that you couldn't just simply learn from a single song.
No, Battletech's a pretty simplistic universe.
Rocks will be thrown. You'd like Battletech. You both would.
I actually watched the Green Jade cartoon animation thing from the 90s or something.
God. Wait, please, give it a second chance.
It was pretty good, actually. Characters are kind of nice.
Oh my God. Oh, you're all
Maybe
from that era.
my standards for Battletech are just extremely low.
It deserves more than that.
That's the highest point Battletech has ever reached, in my
The
opinion.
best part is the Davian wedding, when he gives the piece of cake to the little fat princess, and then he declares war on them, the Capellans. That was great. It doesn't have an artistic representation. It should. It really should. Not that I've seen, anyways.
Well, make it.
I can't animate.
Maybe after Iron Harvest. We'll see. I
That'd
still
be
need to
cool.
be convinced to dive into Battletech because I don't know. It doesn't pull me in yet. I'm a slow. I warm up slow to franchises.
You like Prussians and Germanic things. Perhaps look into the faction called the Lyran Commonwealth or House Steiner. That might be a good touchstone for you.
Steiner.
Steiner, yeah.
With such a name, it has to be pretty good.
They are good. Well, definitions of good in that universe. Never mind. War crimes, but still, don't want to shoot myself in the foot here.
HK9410 says, just remembered that the 50th Gudrunite Regiment was canonically 750,000 men. 40k has very interesting ideas about regimental sizes. Yes. It was pretty much probably just because one of the GW people was like, regiment is a good name for a military formation. Let's use it on everything.
Yeah, that's probably right, actually.
Glow in the dark. Eat Krieghorse, get full. Become chemically enhanced berserker. Charge enemies. Get shot. Doesn't hurt. Kill enemies. Real good. Heart explode. Dies. Story of Crank. The Grizzly. What do you guys think of TTS switching to Vampire the Masquerade? I like World of Darkness, though it has been taken over by the Wokest Likes Games Workshop. Well,
Uh-oh.
I don't know. TTS was never my humor, honestly, so I don't pay much attention, frankly. Plus, the TTS people are a little bit on the left for me. A little bit too far.
They're not big fans of the Blondie.
Then again, who is?
True. Not me. No, I'm
Kibbs
kidding.
is.
He's like, we betray him. It's okay. We love you, Blondie. Don't worry about it.
Andrew Jackson says, the amount of time I have had to resub to Archer's channel is ridiculous. Also, this has happened to me with other channels. Ah, yes, the good old-fashioned YouTube deciding you no longer wish to follow this person. I've had this happen to me once with Sargon 2 on his... No, really. Sargon says, World of Darkness fired all the Wokest, like brutally, forbidden from making White Wolf games in the future, etc. Really? Damn.
That's good news.
In that case, I'm actually looking forward to their next game.
Hopefully those writers learned a valuable lesson.
Really? I don't even know that. No, knew that had happened. I need to look into that a little bit. Because all I know is that Paradox screwed the pooch hard on that.
Oh, the video game. Yeah, a disaster.
I'll look into that. If Sargon's still listening, Sargon could send me links on these things. Sargon could scratch Arch's back. Like, Arch had to scratch Sargon's back when he's like, Arch, can you tell me if the Space Marines are male? Looks
He
at Sargon.
just dabbed on you. He's like, yeah, Google it, lol.
That is Sargon's response usually for asking for sources. But funny story. Sargon was like, Arch, are Space Marines men? And I'm like, yes. Can you prove it? Oh, god damn it.
Can you prove?
And so he sent me to look for the specific piece of lore where GW says explicitly that yes, Space Marine are men. Because even finding like in second edition where they're talking about constantly like, oh, brotherhood, it's a warrior brotherhood. They're brothers. They fight together. They recruited from young boys, etc. He just looks at me. He's like, yeah, but it's not saying specifically men. I was like, god damn you, SJW. And so I had to find it. It's like this tiny little bit in the second edition, which says specifically that Space Marines must be created from boys and men because of the zygotes. Because apparently back then we weren't so obsessed with gender as we are now. Like people just assume like, oh yeah, it's a warrior brotherhood. Oh, so they're all men. Cool. Now it's like, but are there women in your warrior brotherhood? Like what?
There's a pre-established lore reason as to why there is. And then they did give you female, quote-unquote, Space Marines. They're called the Adeptus Sororitas.
Sororitas, actually.
Whatever.
Kyle.
You and your Latin can go straight to hell.
It was all worth it in the end, though, because Sargon's thesis was pretty damn good. And it was old school Sargon content, too. Like one of my not just one of, I think my favorite Sargon video still remains his The Politics of Demolition Man. That was very good. I like that a great deal.
That's where I first heard about Demolition Man. And that was actually, remember Arch lamenting about that at great length.
Fucking fetus.
You always looked up to Sargon, even before you met him. You were the biggest fanboy. I remember. He's like, no, stop. He's here. He's listening. Big old fanboy. He's like, oh, it'd be so cool if I could meet him. I remember.
I think I met Sargon before you little dog.
Nope. Yeah, I met him. I met Sargon through you and V and Alldog. And Alldog and I definitely had a very rough start.
Awful person. Trucking Joe says, have you taken a look at the late 90s show Space Above and Beyond? No, I haven't. That sounds mildly awful.
The name is not
Space Above and Beyond.
It's not a banger. Yeah, and I've known Arch for about 7 years. Sargon, I'm the veteran now.
It's got space fighters and shit. Okay, I'm suddenly intrigued. Like the name is terrible, but it's got explosions and shit and soldiers. Holy shit! This looks.
Wait, what's
awesome.
it called? I'll pull it up. Hold on.
Space Above and Beyond.
Space Above and Beyond.
And fuck, this looks cool as shit.
When did this come out? 90s?
Look at this. It's got aliens and armor and guns and space shoots and fighters. This is cool.
Got some cool or outfits. I like the little soldiers in the desert area.
TV series. Oh, it died in one season. Ugh, of course
oh, that's always awful though, because it's like, oh, you want to get into a show and it's like, and it only made once. It still might be worth looking at.
It's like,
yeah, Halo should get a second season. You're right.
Oh god.
You right there, Janovich. I'm gonna do something. There's gonna be repercussions for this down the road.
Insert Skyrim guard text.
It's the same thing with Firefly, right? Because everyone's telling me like Firefly's really cool. You should watch it, and I was like, it's one season that ends on a cliffhanger. Fuck
It
no.
actually gets a movie called Serenity, which sort of helps tie it up a bit more. The same can be said for Farscape. Farscape also got a movie called The Peacekeeper Wars, which helps tie up the story very nicely. One series that really is amazing, and I hope to God everyone in chat at least considers watching it, Babylon 5, because of its interspecies politics and diplomacy. That was really cool. It also got cut short, but it's still worth a watch, though.
I don't know if I agree with that. No.
Please watch it. It's good. I guarantee it.
It's pretty awful.
Got some great actors in it, too.
No, Kyle. Just sit down, hold tight. Thursday is soon coming around again. We'll soon have more Halo for you to watch.
No, we could watch old sci-fi, good sci-fi. Hey, Zach, you can like DS9 and Babylon 5. I don't understand this weird division where you have to like one or the other. You can like both. Also, Arch hasn't seen Stargate. Based Stargate. Best U.S. military propaganda ever made.
I tried to watch Deep Space Nine once. It fucking lulled me to sleep.
You need to get into the universe. You have to get into it. It's great. You'd love the politics in it.
Kyle, I'm old. I don't have time to get into it.
We will make you get time to get into it.
Like Janovich said, I could die tomorrow. I'm not going to spend time watching this fucking piece of shit.
Come on, Janovich. Even you would give it a chance, right? Surely.
What are we talking about?
Shows. You would give shows a chance, like Stargate or Babylon 5 or Star Trek, for instance. You just give it a chance, right? Like, just watch a couple episodes.
Bro, not even my girlfriend can convince me to watch series.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
Fucking own!
Look at Sargon. Sargon is based, and he's the most squeak-pilled person in this friggin' chat. Look at that. SG-1 is great. It is. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, but read his reasoning. Stargate 1 is great. It's got racism.
That's about the other sci-fi thing. And it doesn't matter if it does have it. It's still good. That doesn't negate the fact that it's great. It's got fantastic cast, great writing, excellent music, great characters, and good story progression too. Humanity,
Kyle,
upbeat.
Could you go masturbate somewhere else? I
Listen,
would like to finish the
this is hold on. This is before the age of Battlestar Galactica, the age of we gotta have drama and interfighting amongst ourselves. This is great. All right, Sargon disavowed. He just said Babylon 5 was shit. Sargon, get in the dumpster.
Good. Babylon 5 was shit.
I can't believe
Space
that.
Above and Beyond was racist too. Damn, now I want to watch even more. I only got one season though. Fuck. Hold on. I'm checking if this has a torrent.
Don't say that on stream.
God damn it. I don't think it does. Ah, that's tragic. Let me see. Oh, holy shit. Okay, I found one. Okay, I am going to check this out because that looks cool as shit. Man, I wish there could just be like a action-y space show. I miss action-y space shows.
Uh-oh, there's a war in chat.
That's fine.
Sargon did this. He takes the blame.
Trucking Joe, have you... Oh, no, Andrew Jackson Kibbs, I give you money for sexy Boobles voice. Kyle does have a large homosexual following.
Bubbles voice. Bubbles sexy. I look at Bubbles the same way I look at Arch. Two grumpy Norwegians. One's a forest mountain monkey, and one's a fjord monkey who's angry because the air is salty because of the seawater.
I'm not going to watch a TV show on YouTube, chat. Like 720p, Jesus. Ravagy, can I be a fly on the wall for that session? God damn it. References, can't remember. The Grizzly, Netherlands is New Atlantis, confirmed. It will be Atlantis during the next World War, anyways.
Coming soon.
Yeah, no, Zixis, Arch, I won't be sending you money if you keep hurting my ears pronouncing my nick. It's Yano Zixix, though.
Beautiful.
Yano Zixix? What is this?
It's like the little flying floppy flop thing from Sacrifice. Zizix.
Zizix. Yeah, Zizix. I know Zizix.
Yeah.
Yeah, your name's
His
Zizix.
name's kind of like that.
I can't believe you didn't go for the lowest hanging fruit yet. Do you know which one it is?
What is it?
What is it?
The Yano bitch?
Yeah.
Yano bitch?
That is not that creative,
Yano.
though.
Okay, yeah,
No, it's low hanging fruit.
Yanovich, Yano bitch. I mean,
Eh,
if we were playing Project
you
Zomboid
guys are
and
too
I was
sophisticated
stressed
for that
out
one.
and I needed to insult you quickly,
yes.
I think I'd just go for Swamp Thing instead, honestly.
We're pretty good with nicknames. We have a friend who nicknamed himself Hands, so we called him Ketchup. See? Big brains. We got the biggest brains nicknames here.
All right.
There's
Can't
also
wait.
Artemis, who has been dubbed Slutimus.
Yeah, see? Big brain. Big brain nickname. Arch. Barch stands for Boomer Arch or Blondie Arch. Because he's Blondie. That's his nickname. Big Thinkies.
That really is the laziest nickname in the history of
These
humanity.
are the biggest of Thinkies. Don't deny it.
Black 1917. CNN forgot that their 29 million fans are part of the population that believes they shouldn't pay for anything. Ah, well, there's another thing too. So a very interesting thing happened recently with the whole Twitter thing. Or well, it hasn't happened. But it'll be very interesting to see if it goes on. But somebody pointed out that a lot of these accounts on Twitter seemed remarkably much larger than their their reactions indicated, and the same is often true for the news channels on YouTube and stuff, where you see like millions of subscribers, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 views. When CNN looks at their social media and sees like 29 million fans and think, God damn it, we got 29 million people willing to pay for a premium subscription service. Reality is that 29 million of those are probably also bots. And there's one grandpa in Idaho somewhere like, yeah, CNN, fantastic. Bogue donates 50 Mexican tacos to say taco delivery.
About time.
Taco. I'm not a huge fan of tacos.
I had to school Boog the other day. He's Mexican, right? And apparently, Janovich, Mexicans don't understand how to make tacos. So I had to explain it to our Mexican friend. And he was very thankful and grateful that I educated him on how to make a proper taco. He was happy.
Mexican food is amazing.
Yeah, it is. Tex-Mex especially. It's perfected it. That's somewhere Boog is fuming right now.
Chat says Trapovich. I kind of like that one because Trapovich.
Ooh.
Because it indicates that you're gay, and then you'd have to be like, I have a wife and like 7 children. I can like, ooh, good cover, because that's a perfect comeback.
That is a good cover. See, all you gotta do, chat. See his helmet? Just add 2 little cat ears on it and a little like little kawaii face. There you go.
Uh-oh.
Fan artists out there, you know what to do.
Viking Kiwi. Speaking of Norwegian taxes, Arch, how do you feel about the TV tax we have to pay now? Oh, it's normal. Like you own a TV, you have to pay a tax for the TV. But I don't own a TV. Well, you still have to pay a TV tax. Why? It's Norway. It's just how it is. This is why we have
That's weird.
a state-owned monopoly on alcohol. It's just how things work. Swift Nation, dearest Overlord, would you consider a video on Warhammer Armageddon? It's old but good. Also love the Ukraine videos. Use them at work. Hashtag BreedKibs. Warhammer Armageddon. You mean, wait, no, that wasn't Armageddon. No, Warhammer wasn't Armageddon. Because, wait, hold on. What Armageddon are we talking about right here? Because there's like 3. There's Armageddon, like the rule set. There's Armageddon, the style, like the epic style. And then there's Armageddon as in the war. Because I've already covered the war for Armageddon. It was the first big lore series I did. I don't know which Armageddon it is. Because in Warhammer, it was War Master, where you used the tiny, tiny, tiny little miniatures. It actually had a cool system where you didn't count the casualties of models. Instead, you would count unit cohesion. So it wasn't that the units lost, necessarily models. It was that the larger formation became dispersed and damaged, which I thought was a really cool system.
That does sound cool, like a sort of like a larger strategy. Warhammer 40k has the Armageddon of the war. I've seen some pictures of those, and they look cool.
Yes, Epic Armageddon, I think it was called, or something. It was an interesting rule set.
Yeah,
very much so. Jack the Outcast, Hail Arch, Kibbs and Krieg Trooper 1337. Have you heard of Binders forming a new bureau to fight disinfo? This is coming from a admin that was built on lies. What bullshit message redacted by the Minister of Truth? Have a nice day. I must admit, the Biden administration, the Democrats being the first to introduce a bureau of censorship in the United States is pretty cool. Like, the US made it through 2 world wars without an official governmental censoring body, but they can't survive an African American buying Twitter. It is adorable. David O'Donovan, strike at 0 hour with overwhelming power. Sabaton. David O'Donovan again, thank you for your contribution to fan-made Sabaton videos online. Also, Sargon, thank you for all your work against SJW lies. Legend, God bless. Sargon is a good boy. He deserves the head pats. Even Janovich was a fan. He was a fanatical fan, in fact.
The biggest. I mean, the bigots.
The bigots. Oh my God! There's a bot in. How did bot even get in chat?
They sometimes do subscribe now. Cheeky little gits. Let's put
Bastard. Fine, but
I already got it. Don't press it or you'll unban it by accident. It normally don't see those there.
see, some of the bots are really clever. I saw one bot which like put in links, but it atted people and responded to conversations, and so it looked like it was just a conversation going on. That was a clever bot. That bot was far more blatant.
It's just copied people's statements. That was funny.
Yeah, that was actually really clever, because if you just look at that briefly and you don't really pay attention, you're like, well, that's just a person talking. Alfred, from one pancake lander to another, I will give you, Janovich, the mountain monkey pass. Now use it against the Norwegian to your heart's content.
The what,
Oh,
Benz?
Janovich is concerned.
The mountain monkey.
See, I knew it, he'd be confused.
We call
The
Archer mountain
Danes
monkey.
call Norwegians mountain monkeys, and we call them just trash, basically.
It's fair game.
Scum, alternatively. Province is another good one.
The Dutch are called cheeseheads.
Why?
Really? You guys call them cheeseheads?
We make a lot of cheese.
That's what we call Wisconsin, my neighbor state. We call them cheeseheads
you?
too.
Why do the Dutch make cheese? Now I'm curious.
Yeah.
It's very profitable.
Is it?
I mean, who doesn't love cheese?
I feel like this is becoming a but why
Arch,
conversation.
you need a monopoly on a very specific type of cheese.
What kind?
Like the Gouda cheese.
What?
The what now?
The Crowder?
Gouda!
Gouda.
Uh-huh.
They call it Gouda when they speak in English.
Oh, okay. Then you could have just opened with that. Yeah, Gouda
Gouda
cheese is
cheese.
good. Yeah.
See, actually, I'm a little bit of a cheese connoisseur myself, you see. In Norway, we also have a special cheese which we have monopoly on. It's brown cheese.
Brown cheese.
Brown cheese.
Is that its English name?
Yeah. Well, we call it brunost, which is literally translated as brown cheese.
Is it edible?
Supposedly.
Good question.
Here, I'll send one to Kyle and one to Janovich. There you go. The
I'll put up the
glory
chat.
of brown cheese. Look at that. Fucking
Nice.
delectable.
Let's open up Discord.
I'll eat it. Straight from Archer's home.
Oh, I don't use it. It tastes awful.
What? I thought you were boasting about it, like mind people,
Yeah,
mind
I am.
culture, and he's like, it's garbage.
Mine Volk. It's pretty awesome, but it tastes like garbage.
Then why would you eat it?
I wouldn't. I'm telling you to eat it.
What? I don't know. Then again,
Some
hold
people
on.
put it on waffles, and that's just disgusting.
Arch is the kind of guy where if his gravy touches his potatoes, he gets mad. He doesn't like mixing things. Like he's absolutely, it's like he's got a little square tray, and everything's got to be separate.
The worst I've seen is people like this. Here we have
Ugh.
raw fish with brown cheese with strawberry jam on top of it again,
It looks like butter too.
and then that on crispy bread, which is basically dry bread.
You know-
Sounds like something people in the Netherlands would eat.
oh my god.
Raw fish with cheese.
My people.
Yeah.
Gosh, you
Maybe the
Scandinavians.
Netherlands are just a lost colony of Norway.
Look at he's warming.
Evil Potato says, I heard NTR mentioned, so I need to say there are two different types. The glorious Nettori, where you do the cucking, that's people like Arch, and then there's Nettorare, where you are the cuck, that's people like Kyle.
Yeah,
That's
go
true.
figure.
There are two types of NTR, Nettori and Nettorare. The more you know. Todd, simp, how dare you, sir? I prefer the term investor, lol, hashtag bleedcubes. That's true. They are investing into his video game. Or cheeks, alternatively. Glow in the dark. Janovich's animation can be tedious. No, that was mean.
Nice.
Janovich,
Oh my god.
yeah,
Read it right.
Janovich's animations can be tedious. How do you keep sane or focused?
Right. Well,
That was a misread that drastically changed
Yeah.
the context.
yeah, I read the comments. I know what you mean. Basically, it has to be something that you really want to make. so you keep focused. And obviously, not every day is going to be the same. It's like if you go to the gym and you have like a fixed schedule, then some days, like you're not going to reach that schedule, and some days you have way more energy and you're going to go home and you could have done more. So that's basically the same with working full time on something like this creative stuff as well.
See, for me, whenever I need to do something tedious like that, I just enter zombie mode and I just work. And then I look up, 6 hours have passed, and I'm like, I should have been in bed 3 hours ago. Kill me.
You just have to make the work easy for yourself. Like the easiest that it can possibly be. And then you get a lot of shits done.
So
Like find
hire
your
other
rhythm.
people to do it for me. Yes, I like this idea.
Yes, you have that ability.
I quite like this idea. I think I shall adopt it as my modus operandi. The Grizzly. I also hate what they did to the sisters. They went from this guard for the church dealing with specific reasons why they're at certain locations to just an all-woman version of the Imperial Guard. I don't think they don't even have the new ecclesiarchy models, if I remember correctly. You'd think they'd have a new priest minis or something at least. Well, yeah, that's the thing. The Adeptus Sororitas are the military arm of the ecclesiarchy. Not because the ecclesiarchy wouldn't prefer to have male fighters. They would, because male fighters would be, well, probably better at fighting. They do them because after the whole the War of Apostasy, they're not allowed to have male fighters. They used to. They were the Frateres militia, in fact. But now they're just another army, and that's the problem. The Adeptus Sororitas were created by a company that liked their setting and wanted an in-universe reason for an all-female army. So they figured, like, okay, how can we do this? Well, the ecclesiarchy went out of control because that's something that religious institutions do, and the rest of the Imperium had to rail them in, and they placed this restriction on them that they can't have any men under arms. And so the ecclesiarchy went, hold on. Men under arms? I've spotted a plot hole. Clever I am. And the rest of the Imperium just sighed heavily and let them get on with it.
Also, guys, I'm running out of brain power. I'm like falling asleep in my chair.
That's fine. We're just working our way through the super chat.
Yeah,
Now. So
I'm not
if
gonna
you
make it
must
to the
go,
end.
if
Yeah.
you must go, this is fine.
I must go sleepy.
You made it longer than most, so look at it that way.
Really?
Most guests
I shall
don't always
still
make it to the
condemn your
supers.
weakness.
Only 3.5 hours. No, I'm good. To go to bed, I mean.
Okay. I was like, I'm getting conflicting messages.
No. Okay, thanks for having me.
Yep.
You're very welcome. Thanks for getting on, and we'll talk to you again some other day. Have a good day, I was about to say. Have a good night, Janovich.
Yep.
Sleep.
Yes.
Have good dreams.
Alrighty. Have a good super chat.
Thank you. Grammatron 3000. Stargate Atlantis was good too. Not as good as Stargate 1, but still fun.
It was good.
Was it?
But it wasn't as
Wasn't it?
good because it took a while for the show to find its footing. Like, the first season's a bit rough. Like, I rewatched Stargate SG-1, and I love Stargate SG-1. Oh my god. But there was this weird arc where they had the Ancients with, like, they were fish people, and then they dropped it. Thank god. That would have been really weird if the Ancients were just fish people. Few episodes. Some shows take a while to find their footing, but once they do, they go.
IDW, Arch needs to watch Stargate 1 and review upcoming Stargate RTS.
True, there's an upcoming video game.
That sounds awful. I don't care.
It is by Slytherin, though, so
okay.
my hopes are, my expectations are leveled.
I'm going to play the upcoming Terminator strategy game instead.
Yeah, isn't that weird? There's a lot of strategy games for big budget IPs coming out lately.
The real Holstater. I'm sitting here laughing at the thought of Norway using butch lesbians like World War II bat bombs to destroy the Dutch.
The Dutch.
Disgusting Dutch. Gravitron 3000. Genuine question, Arch. People used to revolt over like a 10% tax rate. How the hell do Norwegians put up with the insane rates you have? Well, that's the beauty of it. People used to revolt over high taxes because their life was hard, and higher taxes made their lives harder. And so they went to the local official in charge and they fucking killed his ass. Now, life is soft, genteel, and faggoty, and almost nothing can make us even angry, much less revolting. And if we do, the government just bombs us to hell and back. Like, the age of revolutions and revolts are over, I think. Like, it would require something remarkable, and it would have to be a cultural revolution first, rather than a military one. Like, you would have to put the state in a position where it can't intervene militarily. And make no mistake either, because I hear this all the time, like, the US government would never bomb its own civilians. Waco. The US government would bomb the shit out of its own civilians if it thought it could get away with it. Go the dark. Netherlands, more like Neverland. Take that, Stings, doesn't Janovich. Go make music spoof, you discount weird AI. That's cruel. Commander Wolf, love your work, Janovich. Jerkovich. Jerkoff-wich. That is the insult we'll use. Jerkoff-wich. Yes. Glory to Saxony in exile. Love Stargate, SG-1 and Atlantis. Also, glory to Archtopia and his Kibbs breeding fields. For Warpstone, of course. Give him power.
You know, I am happy, right? Chat, you're doing a good job. You said Stargate SG-1 and you said Stargate Atlantis. None of you said SJU, and you know, I'm proud of you. Proud of you. You're all good people. You understand that was garbage.
Jan Zwees, what does Creek cheese taste like? Much the same, but worse.
Creek
the Dutchman, brown cheese, so literal sheet. Well, yes, it's made from goats, so kind of literal sheet. A sheep.
Cheat.
Commander Wolf, I can confirm we do call this in Wisconsin cheeseheads or Green Bay packed cheeseheads. Love their hotels though. America. A very homogenous country, don't you know? Minister of Truth. Remember, citizens, anyone peddling misinformation shall be punished by being sent to the Ministry of Love for incarceration, re-education, and straight conversion therapy. Mr. Jack, the outcast, shall be first remembered as a loyal citizen is a good citizen. Yes. And if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Real Holznader, Archer's hell is burritos and soup every day. Yeah, pretty much.
Mixed foods and Arch don't go along. Like, it's strange. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't like any mixed foods. It changes the flavor.
I don't understand how you can be a pig.
It's not being a pig, it's trying different cuisines.
A dirty, filthy, oiking thing that just lives on this earth, garbaging up whatever it comes across. Oh,
you're just a plain garbage. Oh, that's not how that works. It's not like it's garbage.
You should be ashamed of yourself, and yet you aren't, which is weird and just awful. May God urinate on you.
Do you season your steaks, Arch?
No.
No? Okay, you're kind of like Bubbles then. Bubbles, I told Bubbles I use seasonings on my steak, and then he recoiled in horror.
Like, seasoning? What kind of seasoning are you talking about? What do you mean?
Like Cajun or something.
Cajun? Fuck.
Yeah,
why?
A little bit of Creole, maybe.
Creole?
Yeah. It's good.
What's wrong with you?
Maybe a little bit of Worcestershire, Or just recoiling in horror the same way Bubbles did. They're the same person.
You are a disgusting human being.
You know, the British have this like London pub sauce. It's actually pretty good. Goes well on steaks too. Arch is dead inside. Kill him.
Just gonna press end stream now.
Say, I'm done. I'm going to bed.
Salt and pepper is all a good steak needs. Precisely. Like
that's seasoning.
And don't even pepper it either. Just some nice pepper sauce. There you go. You're happy. You're good. Fucking Cajun. God damn it.
Maybe you want it to be a little spicy.
Maybe you want to go into the corner and cry.
A little nippy.
Jack Lou says, honestly, I just want a Yandere sister of battle. That would be good too.
She loves you. The Emperor. Oh, but she'll kill you. Wait. Yandere for the Emperor. Yeah, there you go. Kills other priests. Only
And
I talk to him.
that, ladies and gentlemen, has been all the super chats. That has been all the attention you will receive from me today. Our parasocial relationship must come to an end now. You must go instead and dream happy dreams about me now. Until next time, have a good day.
Oh, wait. No, don't end it yet. Barge.